Chapter 532. As soon as the announcement was made, the players in all the servers were in an uproar. The cross-server expedition had only appeared in Bakey before. The other servers had never received such a world-class, large-scale mission. The rewards of the cross-server expedition were also very generous to the players. Usually, killing monsters would only earn experience and soul coins. However, in the cross-server expedition, killing monsters would be rewarded with military merits. Military merits could be exchanged for military ranks, which had additional attribute bonuses similar to titles. Apart from these, there were also many special rewards, such as resurrection items, super attribute enhancement items, and so on. Military rank skills could only be obtained in the cross-server expedition. How could the players in other servers not be envious? They wondered when their servers would also have such an opportunity. Just because Bakey had launched the cross-server expedition twice, many players in other servers were dissatisfied. They felt that the Bakey players were being treated too well and that the opportunity to cross servers should come in turn. However, the opportunity had finally arrived. How could the players in all the servers not be excited? One by one, they clicked on the registration panel and started sign up. The number of applicants for the cross-server expedition skyrocketed. Although Lu Wu had set a limit of 10 minutes for the registration, it was still too much to handle the number of players who had signed up. None of the players wanted to miss the opportunity to receive free benefits. Whether or not they could help the non-servers to break through the blockade was secondary. The reward was the most important thing. In just a few minutes, more than a quarter of the players in each server had successfully signed up. There were also many players who had heard about the cross-server expedition and were rushing home. They did not want to miss it. The popularity was completely beyond Lu Wu's imagination. At this moment, he could not help but facepalm. He initially thought that 10 minutes was enough to limit the number of applicants, but now it seemed that he had completely miscalculated. The Boundless Peak was not too high above sea level, but it covered a wide area. It would be crowded if so many players were transported there at once when the registration ended in 10 minutes. Lu Wu looked at the number of applicants. 980 million. Lu Wu could not imagine the scene when the cross-server expedition officially started. He guessed that many players would be squeezed off the cliff as soon as they entered, and it would be normal for them to be trampled. After all, with so many people, there were bound to be a few unlucky ones. After everything was ready, Lu Wu took a deep breath, activated the artifact, and started the cross-server expedition. At this moment, the server announcement rang. Server-wide announcement. Cross-server expedition officially begins. Countdown 10, 9, 8, 7, 1. When the countdown ended, white pillars of light descended from the sky and enveloped the players of all the major servers. In an instant, the consciousness of these registered players was shielded. They entered the artifact and were transported to the Xianfeng territory through the artifact. Hearing that the cross-server expedition was about to begin, the non-server players were also extremely excited. This meant that they finally didn't have to dig anymore. The working people were liberated. It was so F***ing exciting. Just like that, amidst the anticipation, countless white lights appeared in every corner of the boundless mountains. The silhouettes of the cross-server players gradually became clear. At this time, the server announcement sounded again. Server-wide announcement. The inter-server expedition has officially begun. Players participating in the inter-server expedition may kill the warriors of the non-server hostile force, Beast Addict Tribe, to earn military points to exchange for military titles and special items. As the white light dissipated, the Doomsday Army assembled for the first time. Naraka's technological army, mecha warriors, tanks, and even airplanes, all sorts of technological products flashing with a metallic luster, arrived domineeringly. The European server's Necromancer Black Robe Army, countless beasts gathered to form the Death Knight Army. The atmosphere was cold and austere, full of deterrence. The Asia server's Superpower Army, the Alien Warrior Army, and the strongest, the self-proclaimed Bakey Doomsday Army. Compared to the non-server players who were still holding white equipment, the equipment of these 4 cross-server reinforcements was absolutely overwhelming. The difference was unbearable to look at. At this moment, the non-server players felt like they were really like refugees. Looking at the splendidly equipped reinforcements, they only had one thought in their mind. How King envious. At this moment, the mountains and plains were filled with the players. After a short silence, the cross-server players rushed down the mountain in a frenzy. Go get them. The Bakey army is the best in the world. Military points. Is my first time getting military points. Don't stop me. I want to fight 100,000 of them. Report the Naraka server for cheating. What the CK is flying a plane. Is the Naraka server developing so fast? Does the Asia server not care about their reputation? How can Bakey and the European server run so fast? Their attributes are amazing. I don't know what to shout. I'm so excited. It's the first time a cross-server newbie is reporting. CK. What's that priest's name? Didn't you tell me that you don't like fighting and killing? Why are they running so fast? Get lost. Don't get in my way. If you keep pushing, I'll kill you too. Have some manners. Those who block me from getting military points die. Are you all crazy? Can't you just rush down in an orderly manner? Do you know the formation? Do you know the strategy? Strategy my ass. Get lost. Let me go. Don't block the way or I'll kill you too. You bastard from an Araka server. Your tank is crushing me. I almost died from your pressure. I'm just a fragile mage. Can't you be gentler? After a brief silence, the earthquake happened. The entire boundless peak was shaking, and the scene was extremely chaotic. At this moment, the players only had one thought in their minds, and that was to run quickly. Don't let these bastards steal all the military points. Seeing this scene, the non-server players trembled in fear. They looked at the white weapons in their hands, then at the fully equipped players from the other servers in front of them. They wanted to cry, but no tears came out. They wondered why the non-server players were so pitiful. If they didn't compare, they wouldn't know. However, when they thought about how they would be able to take revenge soon, the non-server players became excited. They shouted and rushed down with the players from the 4 servers. At this moment, they wanted the Beast Rush tribe to pay with their blood. Below them, the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe stationed at the foot of the mountain also noticed the abnormality of the boundless peak. The ground was shaking violently, as if something was about to happen. Under the leadership of the Beast Rush tribe priest, the tribe quickly assembled. At this moment, the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe had a sinister look on their faces, because they knew that their test subjects were coming again. They could be happy again. However, it was obvious that they had guessed wrong this time. When the army of players appeared before them, they were instantly dumbfounded. Mounts, battle armors, and glowing equipment. The players were still players, but compared to before, these players were not to be trifled with. Kill. The players didn't care whether the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe were shocked or not. Like a torrent, they rushed down from the mountain and charged into the battle of the Beast Rush tribe. At this moment, the cross-server battle had officially begun. In the past, when they fought against the non-server players, the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe could basically kill one player with a single hammer strike. They could even kill several players with a single hammer strike. However, this time, they were facing the 4 calamity armies that had matured. When they encountered classes with high defense, such as zombies and death knights, they couldn't even kill them with 10 hammer strikes. Previously, when the non-server players fought, they mainly relied on basic attacks. However, the players of the 4 calamity armies continuously used all sorts of dazzling skills, completely defeating the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe. What the CK? Why did they change overnight? Retreat. Retreat. At this moment, the priest of the Beast Rush tribe began to shout anxiously. Retreat my ass. Stay here. A player leaped into the air and swung his staff at the priest's head, causing him to stumble. In the eyes of the players, fleeing during the cross-server battle was too much. The earning of military merits had just begun. How could they let them escape? In terms of harvesting, the Naraka server was incomparably ferocious. Bombs, grenades, and bullets rained down in a frenzy, covering an area of effect. This undoubtedly made the players of the original server, the European server, and the Asian server unhappy. Hence, as they advanced, they decisively killed the players of the Naraka server as well. After all, there were only so many warriors of the Beast Rush tribe in front of them. All the players had the same mentality. Whoever dared to snatch the points would be the enemy. In the past, the players of the four main servers would only argue and spit at each other on the forum. However, this time, they were fighting with real guns and live ammunition. Crazy, crazy. As they retreated, the priest couldn't help but mutter. In his eyes, these players had all changed. Not only did their strength skyrocket, but they had also all gone crazy. They continuously hammered the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe. When they became ruthless, they would even attack their own people. They were simply crazy. However, to the players, this was extremely normal. After all, it was a cross-server battle. Only the people from their own server would be attacked and protected. Since the other servers were in their way, they would just kill them. The situation became more and more chaotic. At this moment, the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe were so terrified that they could only retreat. Meanwhile, the players followed closely behind. They were like fierce beasts, devouring the warriors along the way. At the same time, they attacked each other as they advanced. Dismantle this mech. This bastard's killing efficiency is too high. He can't be left alive. Kill this sorcerer. He kills monsters quickly. EEA missiles lock onto him. Focus fire. Open fire. The live chat channels of the various servers were in a mess. As long as someone killed monsters quickly, they would be considered a potential threat by the players of the other servers. Then, they would have to face the combined attacks of the players of the other servers. At this moment, the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe were on the verge of tears. They felt that the death experiment had mutated the player clan. It was too scary. At this moment, they wished they had 4 legs so that they could run faster. Meanwhile, the players were in a frenzy. They killed with vigor. Apart from those they acknowledged, everyone else was an enemy. They were going to bash them to death. Rune Masters wrestled with steel mechs. Necromancers clashed with superpower users with spells. Beast Riders clashed with paragons. In the eyes of the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe, the player clan's image went from being weak chickens that could be slaughtered at will to an evil force that would even kill their own people. The situation was too chaotic. Although the Beast Rush tribe kept retreating, they couldn't escape the pursuit of the players. Their casualties continued to increase. At this moment, the players of the other servers arrived and joined in the chase. However, the excited players of the other servers didn't expect that the ones who would bash their heads would not be the Beast Rush tribe, but the people they thought were their allies. In the eyes of the players of the other 4 servers who had come to reinforce them, the players of the other servers were here to help. They were already here to help, yet the players of the other servers still wanted to steal their kills. Were they even human? Therefore, not only did they not show any mercy to the players of the other servers, they even tried to kill them. At this moment, the players of the other servers had a mental breakdown. They killed their own people. The people of the other servers were like dogs. They were utterly heartless. They deserved to die a horrible death. Chapter 533. As a group of newbies, the non-server players were looking forward to the arrival of the players from the other 4 servers. They thought that they would be able to take revenge on the Beastkin tribe under their leadership and kill to their heart's content. However, they didn't expect the veteran players to be so ruthless. While they were hunting down the Beastkin tribe, they were also killing their own people. They were even so cruel to the non-server players. A large number of non-server players were taken offline by the brutal battle veterans while they were still in a daze. At this moment, the non-server players were filled with grief and indignation. They felt that the veteran players of the other 4 servers were useless. What was so great about bullying the newbies? However, to the players of the other 4 servers, the non-server players were the ones who asked for it. In their eyes, the warriors of the Beastkin tribe were worth of merit points that could be exchanged for items in a merit point shop. How could they allow the players of the other servers to take their merit points? In any case, anyone who tried to steal their merit points was an enemy. No matter what server they were from, they would destroy them all. The frenzied players killed their way forward, and the situation became more and more chaotic. B***starred, sneak attack. Do you think that I, a mage, can't fight in close combat? Eat my staff. Guild leader, fire the cannons. Blow them up. That assassin, don't run. How dare you kill our cleric? I'll kill you. Die. Kill, kill, kill. All the merit points are mine. The warriors of the Beastkin tribe were scared out of their wits. This was too cruel. It was understandable that they were hunting them down. After all, they were enemies. However, they were being even more cruel to their own people. What kind of crazy behavior was this? Even the leading priest was dumbfounded by this scene, and his body trembled slightly. At this moment, a mecha suddenly appeared beside him. Under the horrified gaze of the shaman, a silver-white vibration blade suddenly slashed at his neck. As a shaman of the Beastkin tribe, although he had a high status, his forte was the study of spells and witchcraft. His physique was weak, and he had no way of dealing with the sudden attack. Just as he thought that his life was about to end, a figure rushed over from the side and sent the mecha warrior in front of him flying with a single punch. "Ah, this is mine. How dare you snatch it?" Under the astonished gaze of the priest, this burly man with many jewels embedded on his body pounced on the fallen mech warrior. He raised his fist and punched the mech warrior's face. "Kill stealing? Who the hell do you think you are? Kill stealing? I'll kill you. Believe it or not, if you don't know what's good for you, I'll smash your head first." The priestess gaped at the players killing each other. Her mind couldn't keep up. He was actually saved by the enemy? However, the beast devourer priest didn't dare to stay any longer. He took the opportunity to turn around and run. "I almost died. I might not have such a chance next time." However, in this chaotic battlefield, such scenes could be seen everywhere. There was only one thought in the minds of the players of the 4 great servers. These monsters were all mine. Either they were killed by our players, or they were killed by our players. In any case, they could not let them fall into the hands of other players. Hence, the players did all they could to save the beastly warriors who were about to die at the hands of players from other servers. The warriors of the Beast Desire tribe had never experienced such a chaotic battle before. Some were protecting themselves, some were killing themselves, and some were killing their own people. They didn't even know who to attack when they fought back. They always felt that one of them was on their side. Otherwise, why would they protect themselves? The pursuit continued. However, many of the players had reached level 100, and some had even passed the Ghost Commander trial. There was no way for them to escape. They were tortured along the way. As they got closer to the tribe's camp, the desire to live grew stronger in the hearts of the Beast Desire tribe warriors. They quickened their pace, gritted their teeth, and ran for their lives. Toot, toot, toot. At this moment, a loud and clear war horn sounded from afar. Upon hearing the horn, the eyes of the fleeing Beast Desire tribe warriors lit up. They knew that reinforcements were coming. The morale of the entire Beast Desire tribe rose. They knew that the time to fight back had finally arrived. When an incomparably large army of Beast Desire tribe approached from every corner of the dense forest and appeared in their field of vision, the warriors of the Beast Desire tribe finally stopped running. Instead, they turned around and prepared to fight back. Their expressions turned ferocious. However, they didn't expect the players to show no signs of fear when they saw so many Beast Desire tribe warriors. Instead, their expressions gradually changed from surprise to excitement, and then to malevolence. F*CK, there are so many merit points. We're rich. Getting rich has nothing to do with you. It's all mine. F*CKU. Go to hell first. There's so many of them. I thought that this would be the end after killing all of them. It's 2. The players were excited as they faced the main force of the Beast Desire tribe. They had been fighting each other earlier because there were only so many monsters, and there wasn't enough to fight for. However, things were different now. With such a large army of Beast Desire tribe warriors, they were like a mountain of merit points. How could they not be excited? Kill. At this moment, the players changed their target without hesitation and decisively charged toward the Beast Desire tribe's army. At this moment, the chief of the Beast Desire tribe, who was leading the army, was also stunned. When he received the distress signal, he thought that the tribe stationed at the foot of the mountain was in danger. However, when he looked around, he saw that the number of players was several times that of his tribe's warriors. He couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. If they really fought this battle, they would have to use up all their resources. At this thought, the chief of the Beast Desire tribe hurriedly shouted angrily, "Stop! Let's talk. Is there a misunderstanding? Talk my asterisk guess. Can there be soul coins in a negotiation? Experience points? Merit points? You refuse to negotiate. Die." Previously, the Beast Desire tribe was unwilling to negotiate with the non-server players. However, this time, the players who had come from a long distance also didn't want to negotiate with the Beast Desire tribe. To the players who had come from a long distance, negotiation was a joke. So what if they offended the Beast Desire tribe? So what if they offended all the factions in the Blackwind region? On the other hand, they would only come for a few hours and kill to their heart's content. They would leave the mess to the non-server players. Would they be stupid enough to negotiate with them? Hence, the players didn't listen to the Beast Desire tribe chief. Like a flood, they charged into the Beast Desire tribe and began their massacre. This scene left the Beastkin tribe's tribal chief dumbfounded. After all, the Beast Desire tribe was a subordinate tribe of the Cheonyo tribe. The Beast Desire tribe didn't give them any face by charging into their territory. They were basically trying to start a war. However, to the players, they could just kill and leave. It didn't matter to them whether the non-server players suffered or not. Hence, the players didn't have any qualms. They charged into the Beast Desire tribe valiantly and began their massacre. The Beast Desire tribe chief gritted his teeth at the players' attitude. He had no choice but to command his tribesmen to fight. However, the Beast Desire tribe chief quickly regretted his decision. He only had about 10 million tribesmen, but the number of players was endless. He suspected that the number of players was equal to the total military strength of the entire Blackwind region. An invasion from another region? When this thought appeared in his mind, the Beast Desire tribe chief couldn't help but shiver. To him, a war between regions was a long and endless war. Only when a faction from a large region fell would the war stop. This was too scary. As the Beast Desire tribe chief, he felt that he was in big trouble. Seeing his tribesmen dying in large numbers, the Beast Desire tribe chief couldn't take it anymore. He hurriedly ordered his tribesmen to retreat. How could the players let them go? They raised their swords, spears, cudgels, staffs, hammers, battle axes, lightsabers, magic staffs, and other weapons as they continued their pursuit. There was only half an hour left before the expedition ended. The players were also anxious. They looked at the merit points in front of them, but they couldn't bring them all away. This feeling was too unbearable. As players, their motto was to take all of the merit points. Moreover, there were close to 1 billion players participating in this expedition. Many players were still chasing after the Beast Desire tribe. They hadn't even seen what the Beastmen looked like. The resentment in these players' hearts grew. They felt that they were only here to make up the numbers. At this moment, their eyes were bloodshot as they charged forward madly. They wanted to make a killing at the last moment. The players in front of them chased after the Beastmen with all their might while taunting them. They even cursed the Beastmen's ancestors. They wanted to infuriate the Beastmen so that they would turn back and fight. This undoubtedly dealt a second blow to the Beastmen's morale. The Beastmen were very good at inflicting mental damage. They could torture non-local players until they were hovering between life and death. However, it was clear that the veteran players were more proficient in this aspect. This was especially true for the original players. The factions they defeated had all experienced mental damage. It could be said that they were very skilled at drawing aggro. As they chased after the Beastmen, a large encampment surrounded by wooden fences appeared in front of them. Under the tribe leader's command, the Beastmen at the back turned around and began to counterattack. The Beastmen at the front swarmed into the encampment. When the players saw that they had already reached the Beastmen tribe's headquarters, they couldn't help but grin. They knew that the Beastmen had nowhere else to run. It was time for them to learn what an evil faction was, what the fourth calamity was, and what the law of the jungle meant. The flames of war were ignited. The players at the back arrived one after another and joined the battle. Seeing his tribesmen fall in droves, the Beastmen chief felt his heart bleed. After this battle, the Beastmen tribe would definitely suffer great losses. They wouldn't be able to recover without a few hundred years. However, at this moment, he was more worried about the war between the major regions. If these players really came from other regions, then the Blackwind region would be in danger. Regardless of whether they won or lost, the price they would have to pay would be incomparably heavy. Although the Beastmen tribe also believed in the law of the jungle, they were too insignificant in the face of the war between the major regions. They might very well be the sacrificial lambs. How could they not be worried? Just like the Beastmen tribe chief, the non-local players were also very worried. Many players stood on the mountain and watched the clouds gather and scatter. They were so worried that they looked haggard. At this moment, they didn't dare to go down the mountain. If they went down, they would be beaten up. They might even get their heads smashed. Whether it was the Beastmen tribe or the players from the other servers, they were all despicable. They only knew how to bully noobs. All the non-local players were filled with resentment. They swore to themselves that one day, when the non-local players rose to power, they would pay them back double. No, double. Chapter 534. Just as the non-server players were filled with resentment, the players who had come on an expedition were already tearing down the Beast Clan's buildings. The players were furious when they saw the Beast Clan members cowering in their encampment. Time was ticking away, and they didn't have much time to repair points. Yet, they were still cowering in their encampment. Defending my ass. Why are you coming at us head-on? That's ridiculous. Hence, the frenzied players began to tear down the Beast Clan's wooden fences and pushed forward in a frenzy. The Beast Clan could only grit their teeth and hold on bitterly against the frenzied players' attacks. As the players destroyed the specially made wooden fences, the Beast Clan chief's eyes turned bloodshot. He knew that the Beast Clan's survival was at stake. Behind the clan was a steep mountain peak. There was no way out. He could only roar and command his clansmen to resist. However, his resistance was powerless against nearly 1 billion frenzied players. Since the players' arrival was too sudden, it was too late for the Beast Clan chief to request reinforcements from the Cheonyo tribe. Under the pressure of the players, the Beast Clan was forced to retreat while resisting. This scene was very similar to when the non-server players were surrounded by the Beast Clan and forced to retreat to the mountain peak. However, this time, it was the players' turn to block the safe zone. Despair spread in the hearts of the Beast Clan warriors. Even though they had already killed many players, there was still an endless number of them. The players were everywhere in the sky and on the ground. It seemed as though there was no end to them. Under such circumstances, the Beast Clan warriors could only retreat bit by bit. However, when their backs were pressed against the mountain wall and there was no way out, all the Beast Clan warriors let out cries of grief and indignation. At this moment, they seemed to have no other choice but to fight with their lives on the line. Just as the Beast Clan chief and warriors thought that the Beast Clan would be destroyed in this battle, something unexpected happened. The players who were pushing forward with ferocious expressions a moment ago suddenly froze on the spot in fear. Their expressions quickly changed from fear to despair to anger. F***CK. Dog officials don't. Please, let me kill another one. It's already low on HP. Dog officials, I'll die a horrible death. We're about to reap a great harvest at this critical moment, and you're doing this to me. I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to stay here. Dog officials, please pay more. Please pay more. Don't. At this moment, the ferocious-looking players were locked in place by the divine artifact. They could only curse, unable to resist. Following which, under the astonished gazes of the Beast Hunter tribe's warriors, all of the players vanished from where they stood. However, before they left, the players' gazes were filled with longing and yearning, causing the Beastkin warriors to involuntarily shudder. That gaze was like the gaze of death, causing them to feel incomparably terrified. Even the evil players were powerless against the rules set by Lu Wu. In the end, they could only leave while cursing. What was left were the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe, who were bewildered, terrified, and in despair. At this moment, the incomparably ferocious force of players suddenly disappeared. Nothing was left behind. However, the corpses of their tribesmen on the ground made the warriors of the Beast Addiction tribe realize that this wasn't a dream. After this battle, the Beast Addict tribe was completely defeated. The ruthlessness of the players, who would even kill their own allies, was deeply imprinted in their minds. They were truly afraid of the players' forces. After all, it wasn't worth it to anger the lunatics' forces with the help of the players of the 4 major servers. The opportunity for the non-servers' rise had finally arrived. But before entering the big development, they were prepared to properly thank Chara. On the second day after the players of the major servers returned to their respective regions. At this moment, the players were still discussing yesterday's cross-server expedition in the forum. The cross-server expedition, this time, was extremely satisfying for the players. Not only did they get to slay the opposing forces to earn merit points, but they also got to kill the players of other servers who used to argue in the forum. However, even after the cross-server expedition ended, the players still held grudges in their hearts. They felt that if the stupid officials had delayed the cross-server expedition, they would have been able to take over the Beast Addiction tribe in one go. That would have been the real deal. It was infuriating to return at such a crucial moment. However, the stupid officials set the expedition time of 1 hour and had no intention of changing it at all. Faced with the inconsiderate and unscrupulous battle campaign officials who kept their word, the players could do nothing but curse in the forum. After all, the attitude of the stupid officials had always been play if you like, or get lost if you don't. It was simply unrealistic to ask them to keep the players. The all-powerful players in the game always felt that they were the weak forces that were being bullied by the battle campaign officials. They were pitiful and weak, and they always felt wronged. This was also one of the reasons why the players strongly requested the battle campaign officials to open a top-up channel. After all, even if they were not the boss after topping up, they should at least have some say. At the very least, the battle campaign officials would consider the players' feelings when the time came. However, it had been more than 2 years since the launch of Battle Campaign. The stupid officials were still stingy with soul coins and were never willing to give out benefits, let alone the top-up channel. For other games, there should at least be a daily check-in event to give the players something to look forward to. However, apart from the festive activities, the Battle Campaign had no benefits at all. The players hated the Battle Campaign officials as much as they loved them. They always felt that the stupid officials were stingy. However, today, the Bakey players were very excited and looking forward to it. This was because today was the day that the Battle Campaign officials would bleed. The Qixi Festival, also known as the Qiqiao Festival, was a traditional festival of the Qi Dragon Nation full of romance. While the other servers were cursing that their own son would die a horrible death, the Bakey players were looking forward to the start of the festive activities happily. However, the original server players were also a little worried. After all, there was once a Valentine's Day where the stupid officials did not make any moves and had no intention of opening up the festive activities. Therefore, the players were afraid that the stupid officials would do the same thing this time. As time passed, the players started to panic. When it was noon and the Qixi Festival still had not started, the original server players were panicking. Even the single players were looking forward to the Qixi Festival, not to eat dog food, but to freeload off the benefits of the event. After all, with soul coins and other resources, even if the dog food was stuck in their throats, they could only pinch their noses and swallow it. At around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the original server players who still could not wait for the event to start could not help but protest on the forum. For this reason, the players listed hundreds of reasons why they had to start the event. For example, the Qixi Festival was a traditional festival of the Qi Dragon Nation. If the event was not held in the game, it would be an act of unpatriotism. It must be held, and they strongly requested for it to be held. There were also players who said that today was the romantic day when the cowherd and the weaver maid met. Such a day was worth commemorating. As a game with a huge influence, the Battle Campaign officials wanted to commemorate this day with the players. There were even players who said that there were a lot of children playing the Battle Campaign. Nowadays, most of them have forgotten about traditional festivals. As the Battle Campaign officials, they should start this event to let the children remember that today was the Qixi Festival. Such an action would be a great virtue. There were all kinds of opinions in the forum, leaving Lu Wu dumbfounded. Although he was used to the players' ability to make up stories to achieve their goals, this time, Luwu still felt that these idiotic netizens were really talented. As he read through the posts in the forum, Luwu almost thought that he was a sinner in history. It was really amazing. However, Luwu was already prepared for the Qixi festival. When it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just when the players thought that the stupid officials were going to cancel the event again, the Qixi festival began. At the same time, the entire Mansion of the Dead was refurbished. The color of every building changed. Colorful lights hung from the ceiling, and colorful ribbons swayed in the wind. It was a romantic Qixi festival. Server announcement. The Qixi Festival Golden Breeze and Dew will officially start at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Qixi Festival Event 1, Concentric Knot. Event Introduction. During the Qixi Festival, all players can register to participate in the event on the event panel. After the registration is successful, the player will receive the quest item Concentric Knot, incomplete. After receiving the quest item, the player can find a player of the opposite sex in the game to complete the incomplete Concentric Knot and complete the Qixi Festival quest. Event requirement. Complete the Concentric Knot for 1 hour. During this time, you're not allowed to log off. Logging off will be considered as a failure, and time will return to 0. Blessings. The golden wind and jade do meet, surpassing countless things in the world. Chinese Valentine's Day, Event 2. The Wrath of a Single Dog, Event Introduction. During the Chinese Valentine's Day event, all players can register to participate in this event through the event interface. Upon successful registration, players will receive the quest item Tears of a Single Dog. After using this item, the player will be transformed into a single dog and be able to destroy the mission item Concentric Knots, turning it into its initial incomplete state. Players who participate in the Concentric Knots event will have their mission time reset to 0. They are not allowed to combine concentric knots within 10 minutes. Event requirements. Players who choose this event must complete the Concentric Knot Destruction mission 5 times during the Chinese Valentine's Day mission. Event Blessing Woof. 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 Howl. For this Chinese Valentine's Day event, players could only choose to participate in one event. The rewards for both events were the same. Players who chose the first event would receive an additional special effect, meeting on the Magpie Bridge, after completing the Concentric Knot mission. Event reward, Qixi Fortune Pouch, random item, 100 soul coins, instance dungeon entry x10. The players were extremely excited when they saw that the lousy officials had finally started the Chinese Valentine's Day event. However, when they saw the content of the event, some of the players were instantly dumbfounded, while some of the players' faces gradually turned ferocious. On the other side were the players with couples. When they saw the special effect of the meeting on the Magpie Bridge, they were deeply attracted. Naturally, they would choose the first event without hesitation. However, this mission was not smooth sailing, because the lousy officials had even set up a hostile force. Single dogs. Deep sorrow rose in the hearts of the couples. However, in the eyes of some players, the second event, the Wrath of a Single Dog, was such a thoughtful event. They had to eat dog food every year, and this year they could finally take revenge. Hence, when it was 5 o'clock, the event officially began. The howling of the single dogs resounded throughout Beiki. Many players who chose the second event transformed into small and cute single dogs, ready to begin their grand plan of destruction. Although she had a cute face, what she did was insane. On the other hand, the players who chose the first event were like eloping couples. Faced with the pursuit of the landlord's evil dog, they could only play hide and seek. They were pitiful, helpless, and somewhat exciting. Beiki was filled with a joyous atmosphere, with occasional excited barks. Chapter 535. The whole of Beiki was bustling during the Battle Royale event. It was always the happiest moment for the players when the Battle Royale officials distributed the benefits. After all, such an opportunity was hard to come by. During the event, due to the existence of a second event, the single players' accumulated emotions exploded. The festive decorations of the Mansion of the Dead made the Qixi festival very romantic. However, some of the single players did not think so. To them, the Qixi Festival event had nothing to do with romance, but it was definitely a joyous event. The feeling of breaking up couples was both cruel and joyous. Many single players transformed into lone wolves under the moonlight, wandering around the land of Beiki, looking for couples of players. Even after completing their Qixi Festival mission, some of the overly single players still refused to stop and continued to look for other players who were in a relationship. They even made a provocative declaration in the event chat box. Not a single magpie bridge can be built tonight. They're all illegal buildings and must be demolished. We, the single dog demolition team, enforce the law impartially. We hope that all the couples who reek of love will realize their mistakes and stop showing off their love. Otherwise, we will find you even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground and demolish you cruelly. The couple players trembled in fear as they faced the players who had turned into single dogs. They could only hide from the players of the opposite sex to prevent the crazy single players from destroying the mission progress. Hence, the whole land of Beiki was playing a grand game of cat and mouse. When dawn arrived, the bell that signaled the end of the event rang throughout the land of Beiki. However, there were only a few players who could complete the couple mission and build the Magpie Bridge. After all, the group of single dogs who had turned into huskies was too big and too cruel. After the Qixi Festival event, the players' lives returned to normal. Lu Wu was observing the players' daily life through the artifact when his phone rang. There were only a handful of people who could get through to his phone. He picked up his phone and saw that it was Wu Guai who was calling, just as Lu Wu had expected. He picked up the phone and heard a familiar voice. "Brother Lu, did you miss me? Why would I miss an old man like you?" Lu Wu thought to himself helplessly. However, he could not say it out loud. "Brother Wu, there must be something wrong, right? You wouldn't have called me if there wasn't anything important." "Huh, why can't I call you if I have nothing to do? But this time, I have something to discuss with you." "I'm listening. Go ahead." "It's like this. Recently, the guild has been in need of soul coins for development. Life has been tough. Can you give me 10 million soul coins to support me so that I can speed up the development of the guild?" Lu Wu was speechless. "Haha, I'm just kidding." Wu Gui's laughter came again, while Lu Wu was still in shock. "Even if you want it, you won't give it to me," Lu Wu said angrily. "Stingy? No wonder the players call you the stingiest dog official. You live up to your reputation. Let's talk business, or I'll hang up." Don't. It's like this. Recently, Los Angeles, America is going to hold a world-class game exhibition called E3. I've received an invitation from the organizers, and they're willing to provide a gaming booth for Battle Online. So, I'd like to ask for your opinion. Upon hearing this, Lu Wu could not help but be stunned. As the world's largest game exhibition, how could Lu Wu not have heard of it? He also had some understanding of E3. E3 was one of the 4 world-class game exhibitions. The games that were able to participate in E3 were basically the flagship games of every game manufacturer. Every year, when E3 was held, it was a grand gaming event for players around the world. It was also a promotional day that all game studios attached great importance to. Other game exhibitions of the same status included Tokyo's TGS, Cologne Game Exhibition, and the domestic CJ Exhibition. However, compared to these game exhibitions, E3 was undoubtedly the most influential. The skyrocketing number of tourists in Los Angeles during this time of year was proof of this. In contrast, the domestic CJ Exhibition had the weakest influence in the gaming circle. This was because at E3, the players were mainly looking at games, but at CJ Exhibition, the players were basically there to see cute girls cosplaying. Games were secondary. This had basically become the consensus among the players. Therefore, in terms of influence, E3 was undoubtedly the most influential. 2 years ago, to Lu Wu, attending E3 was simply unthinkable. This was because he was just the manager of a small gaming website with no traffic, and he could not produce any decent games. However, he did not expect to personally receive an invitation from the organizer. After a brief moment of surprise, Lu Wu was very calm. The main reason was that he was very indifferent to things in reality. Things that were out of his reach back then were no longer so desirable now. "Old brother Wu, let's just forget about it. I'm not interested in these things," Lu Wu said after some thought. Don't. A gaming event like this will attract gaming media from all over the world. It's a good opportunity to expand the influence of the game. Although Battle Royale is very popular now, there are still many players around the world who are sticking to their games and have not played Battle Royale. After all, there are too many games in this era. To continue to increase the number of players, it's not enough to rely on the quality of the game alone. Lu Wu listened and felt that what Wu Guoyi said was very reasonable. Now that Battle Royale had started, the next step was to slowly nibble away the number of players from other games and include them in Battle Royale. Just as Wu Guoyi said, Battle Royale was very popular now, but it was impossible to pull all the players into Battle Royale with the quality of the game alone. This was because watching a game video and experiencing in person were two completely different concepts. Just like in the past, no matter how popular 3D games were, there were still many players who stuck to web-based games. No matter how bad the quality of the game was, with his overwhelming publicity, he could still make a lot of money every year. The importance of publicity could be seen from this. Of course, in comparison, the quality was the most important. When the quality was guaranteed, the conversion rate of publicity was very high. This was like the publicity of two games at the same time. If the quality of a game was very bad, each publicity could attract 1,000 players to download it, but many players would basically uninstall it after playing for a few minutes. In the end, only 10 players would be left to continue playing, which was a conversion rate of 1%. On the other hand, a good game, coupled with strong publicity, would have a very high conversion rate. As for the quality of Battle Online, Lu Wu did not need to prove it. The players of Battle Royale were already shouting the slogan, "The world's best." Coupled with the publicity, a conversion rate of less than 95% was a failure in Lu Wu's opinion. Even 100% was not a problem. This was because this game had all the advantages of other games, but also advantages that other games did not have. Fans of scenery, fans of hamsters, collectors, fans of grooming, and so on, all kinds of players could find happiness here. This game combined all the game modes at the current stage. Even players who did not like fighting could still find endless fun here. In addition to the 100% degree of realism and the physical enhancement brought by leveling up, it was not an exaggeration to say that the conversion rate was 100%. What Lu Wu needed now was a way for players who had not come into contact with Battle Online and were still playing other games to come into contact with this game. Therefore, publicity would definitely be a breakthrough. And E3 was such a platform for publicity of a premium game. As long as it could shine in E3, the name of Battle Online would once again resound in the gaming world. It seemed that Lu Wu was a little tempted. Moreover, the whistleblower at E3 had given Battle Online enough face by providing a game booth for them to use for free. This situation would never have happened in the past. In order to enter E3, many game manufacturers had to invest a lot of money in this area. Under normal circumstances, an internal game booth would cost $200 million PS. The current price is about $20 million. Inflation is temporarily set to $200 million after 300 years. However, this did not mean that they would be able to enter. The quality of the game was also a threshold. Therefore, the fact that they took the initiative to invite and provide a booth for free was enough to show how much importance the E3 organizers placed on Battle Online. After careful consideration, Lu Wu suddenly became interested. Brother Wu, if that's the case, I agree. However, you'll have to contact the E3 organizers when the time comes. I won't be going. Wu Guoyi, who was on the other end of the phone, was speechless. You're leaving such an important matter to me? Anyway, you're the only representative of Battle Online. It's the same if I leave it to you. When the time comes, I'll provide support for the game and will personally attend E3. As for other matters, I won't be involved. In Lu Wu's opinion, there are too many things to handle when contacting the E3 organizers. For example, booth planning, game figurines, game content introduction, and so on. These things were too complicated and Lu Wu did not want to do it himself. It was perfect to leave it to Wu Guoyi, who had been operating Battle Online. You said that I'm the person in charge of Battle Online, but I don't have any rights to the game. Wu Guoyi's resentful voice came from the other end of the phone. Haha, that's enough. Don't forget that when you were bullied in the game, I supported you with 100 soul coins and helped you get your revenge. Then how about I ask you for another million soul coins for support? Wu Guoyi quickly followed up on Lu Wu's topic. Ahem, the phone signal is not very good. Brother Wu, that's it. I'll hang up first. Lu Wu hung up without hesitation after he finished speaking. What a joke! A million soul coins did not come out of thin air. Perhaps Wu Guoyi was really in need of soul coins. Compared to him, Lu Wu felt that he was in even more need of soul coins. Not to mention the soul coins that were consumed in each server's construction, updates, and activities. The Emperor's mirror that he cultivated was also a soul coin burner. As for soul coins, Lu Wu had made up his mind to not let them flow out except in the game. After all, even when Lu Wu was really poor, he only sold Yi Shui a few hundred soul coins. Now that he was not in need of money and could afford to raise little Bailey, Lu Wu would never do something as silly as exchanging soul coins for cash. During the construction of Battle Online, Lu Wu's mentality was constantly changing. 2 years ago, when Battle Online had just started, Lu Wu was extremely happy when he exchanged soul coins for hundreds of thousands in cash. But now, cash was just a string of numbers in Lu Wu's eyes, while soul coins were an all-purpose currency. The difference in value was obvious. Chapter 536. After deciding to participate in the E3 gaming exhibition, Lu Wu began to pay attention to this aspect. At the same time, he began to work on the game showcase that he needed to provide to Wu Guoyi. Of course, Lu Wu still had absolute confidence in the quality of the game. It would not be a problem to amaze the world at E3. As for the specific production of the game showcase, Lu Wu decisively handed it over to the battle chief planner, Lil Bailey. Lu Wu felt that he had gone further and further down the road of living off a woman, and there was no turning back. After all, he had such an all-round lowly who knew everything. Why would he need to do it himself? Even if he did it himself, he would not be able to do it as well as Lil Bailey. Therefore, wasn't it better to live off a woman? After handing over the task to Bailey, Lu Wu used the artifact to observe the idiotic lives of the players. At this stage, the development of the local server was relatively stable. Every day, the players attacked the Sea King and were attacked by the Sea King. However, the entire land of Baiki was still firmly in the hands of the local players. Compared to the other servers, their lives were very stable. In the European server, the war was coming to an end. After the demonic formation was destroyed, Yuanchu's last reliance was destroyed. Although he had obtained the formation board of the demonic formation, he could not activate it. On the other hand, the strength of the European server players was getting stronger. In the beginning, they were suppressed, but now they had an absolute advantage. Basically, the destruction of Yuanchu's forces was a foregone conclusion. Now, they were just struggling on their deathbed. In the Asian server, due to the deterrence of the Evil King when the server was first launched, the forces of the Demonic Spine region still did not dare to start a war with the players who lived in Blazing Sky City. Although they were always monitoring the players' every move, they did not dare to make any big moves. It was not that they were afraid of the players, but they were afraid of the god behind the players. However, after the end of the cross-server expedition 3 days ago, the Asia server players also discovered the huge gap between the overall combat power of their server and the other 3 servers. Speeding up the pace of becoming stronger had become the goal that all the Asia server players desired. They were ready to officially declare war on the other forces of the Demonic Spine region. This was because war was the best catalyst for their growth. The more they fought, the stronger they became. In the Naraka server, after the artificial intelligence AI, Ku officially joined the server and became an NPC, the entire Naraka player force developed rapidly. The players actively provided various aspects of knowledge and information to input into Eric's database. Then, Eric would research and create new weapons and equipment. With such a growth mode that was almost like cheating, the technology that the players in the Naraka server had grasped could be said to be advancing with each passing day. Moreover, the Naraka server was a unique server, and every player had to master a lot of knowledge. Basically, the players in the Naraka server could be considered half scientists at this stage. When discussing mecha modification, new weapon development, and application, even players who knew nothing in the past could now add a word or two. Since the application of technology was closely related to all players, many players subconsciously began to understand this aspect of the content. The changes that Battle Royale brought to the players could be said to have extended from the gaming aspect to the spiritual aspect. The sense of fulfillment brought about by learning was also a major feature of Battle Royale. Of course, although the Naraka server was developing rapidly, the living environment was still very harsh. As the most dangerous region, hell beast hordes would occasionally erupt. Whenever that happened, wherever the beast hordes passed through, not a single blade of grass would grow. It was impossible for players to survive in such an environment. They could only grit their teeth and endure it. Once they respawned, they would continue to develop faster. For the players in the Naraka server, death was like having to eat and drink every day. They were already used to it. Now, the region that Lu Wu was most concerned about was the newly established Xianfeng region, which was also the non-server. This was because the non-server players' lives were really miserable. That kind of misery was enough to make Lu Wu laugh out loud, even through the screen. If it was not for the fact that he could not hold it in, Lu Wu would not have laughed either. After all, these players would be his subordinates in the future. From the beginning, when they were surrounded at the respawn point, to being tortured by the Beast Addict tribe as a test subject, to the subsequent preparations to dig a tunnel, and so on, the misery of the non-server players was acknowledged by all players in the 4 major servers. But now, the non-server players finally had the opportunity to rise. This was because the battle group of the Beast Addict tribe no longer dared to set up camp at the foot of the Boundless Peak. The crisis was over, and the non-server players were faced with the endless wild monsters in the Eastern Thorn Forest, which meant endless soul coins and experience points. The great development of the non-server players began. However, during this period of time, the non-server players did not forget one thing, and that was to hunt down Chara. The reason why they were in such a miserable state was because of Chara. Now that the blockade of the Beast Addict tribe had finally been lifted, the non-server players naturally wanted to take revenge and punish Chara. Therefore, on the bounty board of the non-server players, Chara became the second bounty target with a value of 5,000 soul coins. As for the first bounty target, it fell on Crayon Shinchan's head without any exception. At the most miserable stage for the non-server players, Crayon Shinchan, who had gone all out to attract aggro, was hated by all the non-server players. To the non-server players, this kind of continuous mental blow was even more detestable than Chara. For this reason, the non-server players collectively raised 50,000 soul coins and put Crayon Shinchan on the bounty list. This bounty was included in the overall bounty list, which increased Crayon Shinchan's value once again. Naturally, Crayon Shinchan was not surprised by the non-server players' behavior. He even specially went to the non-server forum to properly thank the non-server players for their enthusiasm and made countless enemies again. Of course, although he was not surprised, Crayon Shinchan was deeply troubled by the increase in the bounty. This was because the increasing bounty also meant that the day of being punished by his own mother was getting closer. However, it was impossible not to act recklessly. How could one be happy if one did not attack others? As the number 1 anti-hero in the battle, Emo Xiaoxin was gradually moving further and further away on the path of seeking death. He was unable to extricate himself and did not want to extricate himself. His current mentality was to muddle along. Every day that he could be happy was one day. Every day that he could be angry was one day that he could cry. The non-server players could only feel helpless against Crayon Shinchan, who could not find the true identity of the non-server players. They could only hope that the non-server players would work harder and punish the anti-hero as soon as possible so that he could be killed and quit the server. However, for Chara, there was no need for support for the matter at his doorstep. During the period when the blockade was lifted, apart from killing monsters and leveling up in the eastern part of the Thorn Forest, searching for Chara had also become the consensus of the non-server players. Due to Chara's strong individual ability, it was impossible for a single person or even a small team to punish him. For this reason, the non-server players developed a targeted battle plan. That was to report his location. As long as a player found traces of Chara, he would immediately report Chara's coordinates in the regional channel. By then, all the non-server players in the area would receive Chara's coordinates and then collectively surround and kill him. This method was really effective. With the cooperation of the major guilds and groups of players, Chara was besieged several times and was almost killed. However, what made the non-server players grit their teeth was that the agile Chara could always escape at the critical moment. They tried this several times, but all of them failed without exception. However, the non-server players' desire to surround and kill Chara did not decrease. Instead, it grew stronger. They all swore on the forum that they would rather not have Chara, the wall-level player, locked in the safe zone so that he could never leave. As the instigator of the non-server tragedy, Chara was currently crawling in a sea of blue flowers in the eastern part of the thorn forest. His body was moving up and down violently, panting heavily and sweating profusely. Just a moment ago, he had experienced another round of attacks from non-server players. This time, it was more dangerous than the previous few times. The groups of players organized by several major guilds formed layers of encirclement, and he almost couldn't get out. Fortunately, he managed to escape with only a sliver of his HP and did not return to the safe zone. If he had died and returned to the safe zone, Chara knew how terrible his fate would be with the Great Demon King as an example. Over the past 2 days, Chara also understood how terrible his current situation was after Jack's narration. It could be said that he had made countless enemies and had become an existence that everyone in the non-server wanted to kill. At this time, Chara also began to use the forum function. This was because the forum not only allowed him to understand a large amount of information about the game, but it also helped him discover the dynamic information of the players who wanted to punish him. The previous few times, he had relied on the sharing of his coordinates by the players on the forum to avoid being besieged. However, he did not expect that he would almost die this time. It was obvious that the players who were hunting him down had realized the hidden dangers in the forum and had probably set up a private group to hunt him down. This gave Chara a huge headache, and he felt that his future days in the non-server would not be easy. After a short rest, when his HP had slowly recovered, Chara's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He immediately opened the competition menu and chose to be matched with an opponent. In terms of individual competitions, Chara would participate every day, and he would fight more than 15 matches every day. As the opponents became stronger, Chara could enjoy every battle to his heart's content. Until now, he had won 328 matches in a row. Under the state of consecutive victories, his competition points increased rapidly, and Chara had now broken through 10,000 points, becoming the first King Division player in the non-server. P.S. In individual competitions, consecutive victories will give additional points. Under consecutive victories, victory points will accumulate and increase, and under consecutive defeats, the deduction of competition points will also increase. In the case of a draw, there will be an additional consolation point bonus of 1 point for each match, and consecutive draws will be equivalent to the accumulated points gained from consecutive victories. This time, his opponent would be Chara's first competition in the King Division. When Chara pressed the Opponent Match button, a game notification suddenly appeared. Game notification. You have reached the King Division of your server and have qualified for the full server individual competition. 3 days. Do you wish to be matched with an opponent from another server? Chara could not help but be stunned by this notification, and then excitement appeared on her face. He had always heard that the hacks in the other servers were extremely strong, but he had never seen them for himself. However, this time, he could personally fight against one. Thinking of this, Chara pressed the full server match button without hesitation. Instantly, the countdown for the match began. At the same time that Chara entered the match, the server announcement rang. Server announcement. The first King Division player of this server has entered the cross-server match mode. Players can enter room 001 of the arena to watch the match and cheer for the players from your server. On Chara's side, after waiting for less than a minute, the notification that his opponent had been successfully matched appeared. Game notification. Cross-server match successful. The matched opponent is the Bakey player. Yuan Fong. Battle record: 0 wins, 0 losses, 564 draws, consecutive. What kind of godly opponent is this? Chara was dumbfounded when he saw the opponent's battle record. Chapter 537. This was the first cross-server battle between the non-server players, so it naturally attracted the attention of a large number of non-server players. After the server announcement, a large number of non-server players opened the tournament menu and began to enter the tournament room 001 as indicated in the announcement. Of course, they were not there to cheer for Chara, but to observe how strong the wall-level players from other servers were. If possible, they also hoped to see the moment when Chara was severely punished. Chara was still in a state of confusion as the countdown for entering the arena rang. 564 consecutive draws were unbelievable to him, and he could not understand how this player called Yuan Fong managed to do it. When the countdown for entering the arena ended, a game notification appeared. Game notification: entering the arena. Random location: Floating Sky City. As the game notification appeared, the scenery in Chara's area began to change. His line of sight pierced through the thick layers of clouds, and a floating island bathed in golden light came into view. His line of sight suddenly descended, and he arrived at the central area of a floating island. The figure of his opponent, Yuan Fong, also slowly appeared in the central area 100 meters away. Game notification: individual battle countdown: 10, 9, 8, 7. During the countdown, the central light screen that separated the two slowly faded. Understanding that the battle was about to begin, Chara's expression became extremely solemn, and he slowly crouched on the ground, ready for battle. Although he did not understand how this player called Yuan Fong could achieve a record of 564 consecutive draws, this person was able to reach the King Division, so his strength should not be underestimated. Facing a strong opponent, Chara's inner desire to fight burned. When the light screen officially faded, Chara's sharp gaze immediately turned to his opponent. However, what surprised him was that his opponent, Yuan Fong, was sitting cross-legged on the ground, looking at him with a bored expression. He could not see any desire to fight from Yuan Fong. An ancestral leopard's beast perception could not detect any intention of attacking from Yuan Fong. To Chara, Yuan Fong's behavior was simply a provocation. Entering the individual battle arena without any desire to fight, then why did you come in? Thinking of this, Chara let out a low roar, and his body suddenly sprinted toward Yuan Fong, his fingernails turning purple at this moment. This attack was aimed directly at Yuan Fong's neck. Right at this moment, Yuan Fong's eyes actually lit up with anticipation. In fact, Yuan Fong did not have much desire to participate in the solo tournament. If it were not for Gu Yu's request for him to increase his ranking and help his guild occupy one of the top few spots, he would not have participated in the solo tournament at all. For other players, the individual competition represented the sparring of combat techniques and battles to their heart's content. However, for Yuan Fong, the individual competition would only last for 20 minutes until it was determined to be a draw. After all, the Beiki players were very familiar with his abilities. They also knew that as long as they did not make a move, the bald monk would not be able to do anything to them. A draw would be the best outcome. At the current stage, Yuan Fong had another nickname in Beiki, which was 50-50, which meant that he could fight evenly with anyone. After all, no one could beat him, and he couldn't beat anyone. As a result, a group of idiotic players emerged. They claimed on the forum that they could fight evenly with players of the king tier. Of course, this was only limited to Yuan Fong, because meeting Yuan Fong meant that this round would definitely end in a draw. There were no exceptions. Because of this, Yuan Fong was very helpless. Now, he habitually sat cross-legged after entering the solo tournament and talked about life with his opponent for 20 minutes. Finally, he shook hands and left the arena. This time, it was also Yuan Fong's first cross-server match. Seeing Chara take the initiative to attack, Yuan Fong almost shouted out in excitement. Finally, he could win a round. Buddha bless me. Chara's deadly claws that were swinging down were beautiful in Yuan Fong's eyes. He immediately raised his head with a blissful expression, exposing his weak point, his neck. He was prepared to let Chara's attack deal more damage. Only then would it be more painful when the damage was reflected. The first victory was coming. However, just as Chara's claws were about to hit Yuan Fang's neck, he suddenly twisted his body and forcefully changed the direction of his attack, causing his claws to miss. As his body twisted under the inertia, Chara tapped the ground with the tip of his toes and retreated a few meters. Seeing this, Yuan Fang's expression was blank. What's going on? Not far away, Chara was shocked. Just as the claws were about to hit Yuan Fang, wild beast perception kept warning him of danger, as if this attack would bring him terrible consequences. Chara did not doubt his wild beast perception at all, because this was a natural ability that came from practicing beast techniques since young. He had an extremely sharp perception of danger. That was why he did not hesitate to stop his attack and retreat. Looking at the dazed and seemingly silly Yuan Fang, Chara's expression darkened. From Chara's point of view, Yuan Fang's harmless appearance was obviously a disguise. How could he be weak if he could become the strongest player in the Challenger division? Why did you stop? Yuan Fang, who was eager to be beaten up, could not help but ask. Chara did not answer. His sharp eyes stared straight at Yuan Fang, and he began to circle around Yuan Fang, looking for an opportunity to attack. However, the more he looked, the more depressed Chara became, because this guy was full of openings, as if every part of him was a fatal weakness. After a few minutes of stalemate, Chara finally could not take it anymore. With a low roar, he pounced at Yuan Fang again. Seeing this scene, Yuan Fang shuddered. The first victory was coming. Happy. This time, Chara's attack was aimed at Yuan Fang's heart. However, just as his sharp claws were about to hit Yuan Fang, Chara suddenly forcefully changed the direction of his attack again, and he retreated a few meters. A strong sense of danger made Chara feel that if he attacked, he would very likely be hit by Yuan Fang's fierce counterattack. This counterattack could even be fatal. Looking at Chara, who retreated a few meters again, Yuan Fang was dumbfounded. What the F***CK do you mean? Are you going to attack or not? You came here to show off and then retreat. Are you trying to bully me because it doesn't hurt? This is so F***king infuriating. The first victory disappeared again. Yuan Fang looked constipated. At the same time, Chara, who retreated a few meters again, kept thinking about where Yuan Fang's attack would have come from if he had hit him. Left side? Right side? Hands? Or feet? Looking at Yuan Fang, Chara fell into deep thought. The atmosphere was once again in a stalemate. Seeing this, Yuan Fang could not help but wave his hand. All right, sit down and have a chat. 20 minutes will be up soon. Hearing this, Chara still did not reply. He continued to circle around Yuan Fang, thinking of a way to defeat his enemy. Yuan Fang simply sat down cross-legged and looked at Chara, who was circling around him with a bored expression. He felt that this guy was sick in the head. Two feints, how boring. Meanwhile, the spectating non-server players in 001 Arena were also dumbfounded. Until now, they still could not understand what Chara was doing. Moreover, the two attacks just now were completely different from Chara's previous battle style. Many non-server players had watched Chara's battle videos, and they knew very well how wild and fierce Chara's battle style was. Basically, he relied on his powerful explosive power and battle techniques to kill his opponent within a short period of time. This was the first time such a situation had happened. Time passed bit by bit, and now there were less than 10 minutes left. Chara still could not think of where Yuan Fang would attack him if he hit him. Yuan Fang, who seemed to be full of flaws, was also full of danger in Chara's eyes. Giver, are you tired? Looking at Chara, who was circling around him, Yuan Fang could not help but ask. Roar! Chara's sharp gaze stared straight into Yuan Fang's eyes, and he let out a low roar. All right, continue circling. Yuan Fang waved his hand disinterestedly. He felt that this guy was impossible to chat with. At this moment, there was another thing that made Chara very confused. If he did not attack, why did Yuan Fang not attack as well? He could not understand this no matter how hard he tried. Time quickly entered the end of the last 5 minutes. At this moment, Chara finally could not hold it in anymore. No matter what, he had to try to hit Yuan Fong. How could he be satisfied if he did not try? Accompanied by the roar of a beast, Chara's figure ran toward Yuan Fong like a cheetah. Meanwhile, Yuan Fong continued to look at Chara expressionlessly. He felt that this guy was going to faint again and would definitely not dare to hit him. Therefore, while Yuan Fong was stunned, this claw slapped hard on his face, and Yuan Fong, who was caught off guard, was instantly sent flying. At that moment, Yuan Fong was both happy and depressed. This B** star dared to hit my face without saying a word. Even my master and brothers don't hit faces. I'm so angry, this is too much. On Chara's side, the sound of his hand breaking could be heard. Battle notification. Attack caused a weak point critical hit damage of 387 points. Target avoided weak point critical hit damage of 387 points. Damage caused 0. Battle notification. Target Yuan Fong received damage. Embark's infinite activated. Level 2 damage reflection 20%. Damage received 77. For after this attack, Chara was also sent flying. At the same time, the power that was directly reflected on his arm instantly caused his hand to break. For Chara, who was only at level 34, this attack had taken away nearly 1/3 of his HP, which gave Chara a shock. At this moment, Chara finally understood why every time he approached Yuan Fong, Beast Perception would give him a warning of danger. Because his Beast Perception was not wrong, Yuan Fong's entire body was filled with a dangerous aura. Roar! Chara turned over and leaped up, turning his head to stare angrily at Yuan Fong. The injury instantly stimulated the violent beast in Chara's body. His crimson-red eyes were filled with aggression, as if he was about to devour someone. At this moment, Yuan Fong also stood up. He rubbed his cheek. Although he did not receive any damage, it was painful. People who slapped faces were the worst. At this moment, Chara's figure flashed and once again pounced toward Yuan Fong. There was less than a minute left. At this moment, Chara's injured arm was surrounded by lightning. When he swung it, it was like a lightning whip, ruthlessly lashing toward Yuan Fong. This attack was the strongest attack that Chara had comprehended at this stage among the beast techniques that he had cultivated in reality, the Thunder Coffin. The totem of the ancestral leopard appeared on his chest, as if it had come alive. It roared and pounced toward Yuan Fong. At this moment, Chara wanted to use this strongest attack to break Yuan Fong's defense, devour him, and kill him. Almsgiver, Lord Buddha bless you. Seeing this, Yuan Fong put his palms together and looked at Chara. The moment the Thunder Whip and the ancestral leopard's totem hit Yuan Fong at the same time, the time limit of this battle had finally come to an end. Although this attack was very strong, Chara, whose attributes were not high at this stage, still could not break through Yuan Fong's fixed 800 points of defense. In an instant, Embark's infinite counterattack caused his body to crack and turn into a black fog. Game notification. The cross-server battle has ended. The winner is the Beiki player, Yuan Fong. Seeing this scene, the non-server players were in an uproar. As for Yuan Fong, there weren't many players who knew much about him, as he was too unknown. Therefore, they were shocked to see Yuan Fong defeat Chara without making a move from the beginning to the end. On the other hand, Yuan Fong was also smiling. His first victory had finally come. I like this kind of hot-headed opponent. Happy. Chapter 538. The first cross-server battle of the non-server was also Chara's first cross-server battle. However, many people did not expect it to end in such a way. The situation that seemed inevitable to the local players caused an uproar in the non-server. The fact that Yuan Fong was able to defeat Chara without making a move made the non-server players feel envious. Hence, a large number of non-server players began to seek advice from the local server, even requesting to learn this skill. The local players' responses were very uniform. Well, a load of bullshit. How could the local players not be envious of Yuan Fong's ability? After all, this was a supernatural ability, the same level as the Prajna Scarification of Hell. The players have been wanting to learn it for a long time. There was even a section in the forum dedicated to studying how to learn the Prajna Scarification of Hell. Some players spent all day discussing how to comprehend this supernatural ability. However, until now, there were only two people who had mastered the prognoscarification of hell in the whole of Beiki. One was Yuan Fong, and the other was Qiu Qiu. The players had never seen Qiu Qiu's ability, but from Yuan Fong, it was obvious that the prognoscarification of the same level that Qiu Qiu had mastered was extremely powerful. It was a powerful ability that could directly make a mediocre player reach the top of the cheat class. Hence, wanting to learn it was one thing, but mastering it was another matter entirely. The non-server players' consultation was ridiculous in the eyes of the Beiki players. After all, they did not even know how to start, so how could they teach others? However, this still could not suppress the desire of the non-server players to become stronger. The enthusiasm of the non-server players to become stronger was extremely high. After seeing the strength and excitement of the other servers, they yearned to reach this level one day. They even want to catch up from behind and win the first place in the future cross-server battles of major regions. As the overlord of the forum, Crayon Shinchan naturally fiercely refuted the non-server players' comments on the local server forum. He once again attracted a wave of hatred and angered the non-server players so much that they added another sum of money to the bounty column. Although the local players did not think that the non-server players could surpass them, they also felt a sense of urgency. The European server, Hell server, and Asia server were all developing at an accelerated pace. In this bizarre game world where opportunities were everywhere, no one could say for sure who would be the first in the future. This was just like the Sea King. Every time he turned around, his strength and subordinates would increase greatly. Such opportunities existed for the players as well. With the arrival of the cross-server war, the original players also realized that they had to speed up their development. According to what Crayon Shinchan said in the forum, as a father, he had to be a father for life. How could he be a son and a father at the same time? We have to be the father from beginning to end. That is the real father. Crayon Shinchan's remarks were naturally condemned by the players on the forums of other servers. However, in the original server, although everyone was gnashing their teeth at this guy, his words struck a chord in the hearts of all the original players. They all agreed with his theory of being a father for a lifetime. South of Beiki, the Arctic Abyss. This area was covered in ice and snow all year round, blocking the players' access to the other large region in the south. But at this moment, the ice that had not melted for 10,000 years was melting at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the Ice-Snow Clan's territory within the Arctic Abyss, the glaciers had melted on a large scale, and the buildings that were once made of ice had long since disappeared. Perhaps Tonghua and the Rock Ghost King did not know. The formation that they had set up according to the method described by Talisman Bao would have such a huge impact on the Arctic Abyss. How could a god-level body be so easily neutralized? After the melting formation was set up, the ice attribute spiritual energy in the entire Arctic Abyss was absorbed in large amounts. Later on, when Lu Wu used his soul power to activate the melting formation to accelerate the destruction of Talisman Bao's godly body, he accelerated the loss of ice attribute spiritual energy in the Arctic Abyss. Until now, the Arctic Abyss that had lost a large amount of ice attribute spiritual energy could no longer maintain its extreme cold attribute. The temperature warmed up, the glaciers melted, and the falling snowflakes in the sky disappeared. At the same time, as the glaciers in the Arctic Abyss melted, the heat in the air of the land of Beiki was absorbed, causing the temperature of Beiki to plummet. Naturally, the players noticed this as well. Although the cold weather did not affect the players who had strong physiques, such an abnormal situation aroused the curiosity of the players. The theory of natural disasters appeared in the forum once again. There was always a group of players who liked to stir up public opinion. They started a rumor in the forum that the new expansion pack, the Frozen Throne, was about to appear and that an ice attribute natural disaster army was quietly approaching. They asked the players to be prepared to defend. The idiotic players were always talented in making up stories. They made it sound so logical that it seemed like it was true. Of course, there were not many players who believed it. After all, Natural disasters in Bakey had never appeared since the great Devil King who he left. Other than the optimism of the Bakey players, it was probably because of the newly added weather adjustment system in Battle Royale. While the players were discussing about the weather, the Arctic Abyss was deep underground in the area that the players were never willing to set foot in. Under the 1,000-meter thick ice layer, an army that had been sealed for countless years was quietly awakening. The ice and snow melted, turning into water that flowed down the iceberg. The moment the ice seal isolation barrier outside the Ice Snow Clan's territory was broken, the consciousness of the ice ghosts deep underground was finally awakened. Broken armors, broken weapons, broken bodies, the endless years of slumber made them temporarily forget who they were and what the meaning of their existence was. In the process of awakening, ancient memories came one after another. It was the lost glory of the Ice Ghost Clan, something that was engraved in their hearts from the moment they were born, something that they protected with their lives. They originally belonged to the land of Bakey and were loyal to the powerful Bakey Divine Clan. They were also the sharpest spear and the strongest shield of the Ice Snow Clan. They fought for the Bakey Divine Clan and the Ice Snow Clan without any regrets. Roar. When the last memory emerged, the Ice Ghost Clan warriors buried deep underground struggled madly and let out angry roars. They abandoned us. It was the betrayal of the Bakey Divine Clan and the Ice Snow Clan. We fought for them with our lives, but they imprisoned us here. The warriors' glory was covered by years of heavy snow, and their fighting will was sealed by the solid ice layer. We were abandoned. Without glory and fighting will, we lost everything. We no longer had a goal to fight for. We were just like puppets. The sealed memories were peeled off like silk cocoons, slowly unraveling. Anger and hatred came one after another. At this moment, the Ice Ghost Clan remembered the past, the lost glory, and the fact that the master they had protected so loyally had abandoned them. Since we have lost the goal to fight for, at this moment, we only want revenge. Kill the Bakey Divine Clan and the Ice Snow Clan, who once made us proud. Our rotten bodies will be reborn in their blood. An army of zombies that belonged to ancient times had officially awakened at this moment. This was a dusty history that even Tongwa and the Rock Ghost King did not understand. It was too old, so old that no one in the land of Bakey could remember their existence. No one knew the glory they carried and the bravery they had during the battle. During their most glorious years, they still had a name. The Heaven-Defying Alliance. Ice Ghost Battle Group. Chapter 539. Bakey Arctic Abyss. After a few days of searching, the players finally discovered the source of the cold current that caused the temperature of Bakey to plummet. At this moment, the players rushed to the Arctic Snow Mountain where the ice and snow were melting, wanting to find out. The curiosity of the Bakey players could be said to be completely cultivated in the game, not innate. Ever since the dog fell into the pit and obtained the inheritance, the curiosity of the Bakey players toward the unknown had become extremely strong. In the end, it was because there might be opportunities in the unknown. Fortuitous encounters were very mysterious. Some players jumped into the pit and jumped off the cliff as soon as they saw it, but they did not get any opportunities even after repeated efforts. Some players did not have such thoughts at all, but they inadvertently got a great opportunity. However, taking the initiative to try was always more reliable than waiting for luck to come. Therefore, this time, the special changes in the Arctic Abyss attracted a large number of players. The players all wanted to find a chance to rise in this change. If possible, they also wanted to be a cheat. At this time, the temperature in the Arctic Abyss was not as cold as it used to be. Although the cold wind was still blowing, it did not affect the players at all, so they did not need to buy cold protection items in the shop. This area, which was originally sparsely populated, was now filled with players in groups. At this time, almost a quarter of the Arctic Snow Mountain had melted, and there were potholes everywhere. There were even some places with so much water that the players had to swim. Even so, it still could not stop the players' desire for opportunities. During the search, a large number of players came to the land that once belonged to the Ice Snow Clan. Due to the loss of spiritual energy, the enchantment of the Ice Snow Clan's land was broken, and the players easily entered. When the first group of players entered the Ice Snow Clan's land, they were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. At this time, the Ice Snow Clan's land had turned into a lake, and there were many corpses floating above the icy blue lake. The scene was horrifying. The owners of these corpses were all frozen by the Ice Snow Clan on the cliff behind the mountain because they trespassed the Ice Snow Clan's land without permission, including the remaining cursed disciples. Now that the ice and snow had melted, they were finally freed from the ice. Many players did not know the history of this place, so they were shocked when they saw this scene. At this time, a corpse slowly approached the shore where the players were under the cold wind. One of the players mustered up the courage to poke the corpse with his sword. At that moment, he noticed a smear of red on the corpse's wrist. Lava bracelet, purple quality, broken. Item introduction, a purple quality bracelet made by Bakey's craftsman, Fei Ming. It has been infused with geocentric fire, giving the wearer an extremely high resistance to cold. Item special effect, Earth Core Fire, passive protection skill, Lava Strike. Active, when launching a melee attack against a target, the user can mobilize the power of lava to deal additional fire damage to the target. When the player saw the analysis attributes, he jumped into the water without hesitation and hugged the corpse tightly. He turned to the players on the shore with a vigilant look and said, "Don't worry, I'll kill you. Mine." As he spoke, the player hurriedly took out the lava bracelet from the corpse's wrist and threw it into the channel. Many of the players were dumbfounded. After a brief silence, the players jumped into the water and pounced on the unfrozen corpses. They wanted to make some money from the dead. At first, they did not understand what was going on with the player. However, when they saw the player take off the red bracelet, the players on the shore understood why he was so vigilant while hugging the corpse. Hence, the land of the Ice Snow Clan, which had now turned into a lake, started a battle for the corpses among the players. Every one of them shouted, "Mine, it's all mine," as they hugged the rotting corpses tightly. The scene was extremely chaotic. When the players who arrived later saw this scene, they were dumbfounded. However, when they realized that the corpses were equipped with exquisite equipment, they jumped into the lake without hesitation and joined the battle for the corpses. Although some of the corpses were already rotten, the players' desire for profit had completely overcome their fear. Most importantly, after playing battle for so long, the players had developed a strong immunity to creatures like corpses and ghosts. Now, even the healer players were not afraid of such creatures. Each of them waved their staffs and other long-range weapons, fighting for the corpses. The cute players who claimed that they could not even open a bottle cap in real life were now so ferocious that they looked as if they could twist someone's skull off. They hugged the corpses and would not let go of them, even if they were beaten to death. Anyone who dared to snatch the corpses would be hammered with their staffs. As more and more players joined the battle for the corpses floating on the surface of the lake were quickly swept away. This undoubtedly made many of the players who came later feel extremely depressed. They felt that they had lost an opportunity that they were so close to getting. This group of players who were unwilling to give up turned their attention to the bottom of the lake. The players guessed that the temperature had warmed and the ice and snow had melted, causing the corpses that were originally buried in the ice to float to the surface after thawing. Therefore, there must be another opportunity under the ice. With that thought in mind, a large number of players dived into the water and began to knock on the ice that had yet to melt. Apart from Little Pomelo, Murphy, and Seven Mings, no other players had ever come here. Naturally, they did not know that these corpses actually came from the ice cliff and not the underground. They also did not know that their guess was wrong from the beginning. Therefore, a large number of players bought tools such as shovels and began the ice-breaking operation. By a freak combination of factors, the players' actions hastened the birth of the Ice Ghoul clan. With the spirit of not giving up until they dug out the treasure, the players were full of energy and did not feel tired at all. With the hard work of a large number of players, the ice layer was continuously destroyed. For a whole night, the number of players in the Arctic abyss did not decrease. Instead, more players came after hearing the news. Following the herd mentality, the players who came later felt that since there were so many players digging the ice, there must be a treasure underneath, and they wanted to dig for it too. Therefore, the number of ice-digging players increased. Apart from the first group of players who knew that they were digging for corpses, the rest of the players had no idea what was underneath. However, they were still working hard and just followed the players. However, after a whole night of hard work, many players finally got tired of it, especially the players who came earlier. They felt that there must be no more corpses after digging so deep, and there was still no treasure. At this moment, a crack suddenly appeared on the ice layer below. A faint blue light shone through the crack and rippled beautifully in the water. At the same time that the crack appeared, a whirlpool appeared at the bottom of the water, and a large amount of snow water was sucked into it. At this moment, a player's exclamation sounded in the regional channel. "Look, corpses! They're all corpses!" The players who heard the exclamation immediately looked down. Through the whirlpool, they saw the scene inside. It turned out that there was actually a huge space under this layer of ice. Inside, there were countless warriors with rotten bodies, wearing broken armor, and holding rusty weapons. What the F***CK? They really dug it out. There are so many of them. We're rich. Squad members, go F***king snatch it. Seeing this scene, the players did not feel afraid. Instead, they seemed very excited, because this was the treasure they wanted to dig out. In the previous wave, many players had looted the best equipment from the corpses. Therefore, seeing the Ice School clan fighting under the ice layer, the players rushed over without hesitation. At this moment, countless Ice School warriors opened their eyes. Their dark blue, cold eyes looked at the players who were swimming toward them. The leader of the Ice School tribe raised the frost sword in his hand and swung it forward. Suddenly, the lake water flowed backward and soared into the sky. The players were also blasted into the sky by this force. At this moment, the entire lake's surface was like a volcanic eruption. A large amount of lake water was sprayed into the sky and scattered around like rain. In a moment, the lake's surface formed by the melted snow water was hollowed out and slid toward both sides of the iceberg. The entire lake inside the Arctic abyss disappeared. This force was too huge. It caught the players off guard, and they were unable to resist it. After their strength weakened, they fell from the sky one by one and fell hard to the ground. On the spot, a few fragile players turned into black fog and died. Just when the players were surprised by this, an ancient army that seemed to be broken came out of the huge crack, marching in neat steps. The leader of the Ice School clan, Icy Cold, looked around with lifeless eyes. He was very familiar with this area because it originally belonged to the Ice School clan. It was the territory given to them by the Bakey Celestial clan. They also thrived here, inherited the glory of their ancestors, and continued to fight for the Bakey Celestial clan and the Ice Snow clan. Taking a deep breath and feeling the thin ice attribute spiritual power in the air, Icy Cold's face was as calm as an ancient well, but the anger in his heart was ignited again. This meant that their clan land had disappeared. Just like the Ice Ghoul clan that had been frozen for countless years, they were forgotten by this world. After a brief silence, Icy Cold slowly raised the frost sword in his hand and knelt on one knee. Suddenly, the Ice School warriors behind him all knelt on one knee. Under the leadership of Icy Cold, all the Ice School warriors murmured and paid tribute to their deceased ancestors. With the help of the artifact, the players clearly understood what Icy Cold and his clan were talking about. However, the players did not understand whether the Ice School clan was an enemy or a friend. If it was a natural disaster, it did not seem like it. That was because all natural disasters had a common characteristic, which was that they attacked regardless of good or evil. Whether it was the evil invasion or the descent of death in the void ocean, they were all creatures of the disorderly evil alignment. These creatures seemed to have no consciousness, and their minds were full of killing and devouring. Therefore, seeing the Ice Ghoul clan's behavior, the players were very curious. At the same time, they were also a little worried, not knowing if this force that was dug out would be harmful to Bakey. The glorious battle robe of our ancestors has been destroyed by our former master. From now on, we, the Ice School Warriors, will wear the bright red battle robe of revenge and fight against the Bakey Celestial Clan and the Ice Snow Clan. After saying this, Icy Cold stood up and looked at the players scattered around with his icy blue eyes. At this time, the players were also looking at Icy Cold and activated their analysis ability. Icy Cold, Divine State, Third Order. Character Introduction. The ancient Bakey Celestial Clan created the land of Bakey in a territory eroded by extreme cold and used their divine power to sprinkle vitality in this territory. After that, 3 clans were born in the land of Bakey, one of which was the Ice School Clan. Under the cultivation of the ancient Bakey Celestial Clan, the Ice School Clan developed rapidly and devoted themselves to the Bakey Celestial Clan and the direct descendants of the Bakey Celestial Clan, the Ice Snow Clan. Icy Cold was the last leader of the Ice School Clan. After inheriting the glory of his ancestors, he led the Ice School Clan to join the Heaven-Defying Alliance and establish the Ice Ghost Legion, continuing to sweep away all obstacles for the Bakey Celestial Clan. Character Status. God's Blood Seal, 4 stripes. Once slaughtered the gods of the Heaven Realm and carved their blood as glory on his back. Each stripe represents that he has killed a god of the Heaven Realm. Although he suffered the pain of being corroded by the god's blood, for Icy Cold, it was a source of pride and glory. Broken body. Before being sealed, his divine power was drained, and his divine body was incomplete. At this moment, his strength is only at the demigod level. Divine Power Recovery. Contained the divine power seal and his body has not been broken, so his divine power cannot be recovered. When the players saw Icy Cold's attributes, they were dumbfounded. A godly state master. Even though Icy Cold's current strength was only at the demigod level, to the players, he was still a super big boss that was not to be trifled with. As their understanding of the game deepened, the players already knew the specific strength levels of this game. This was because regardless of whether it was the land of the 9 luminaries or the sea, the strength levels of other forces were divided into Ghost Soldier, Ghost Commander, Ghost General, Ghost King, Ghost Emperor, Demigod, and God. God level was already the strongest combat power that the players knew of at this stage. Moreover, this was only their understanding. Apart from the demonic god that they met at the beginning of the game, they had never seen any other god-level masters. Hence, they had no idea how strong they were. However, just by looking at the strength of the demonic god who could destroy heaven and earth and Tao Wu the Hammer, one could tell that the combat power of a god-level master was something that the players could not handle at all. Hence, when the players saw the introduction of Icy Cold's interface, they immediately felt that something bad was about to happen. Many players had already quietly spread the news in the regional channel, the guild channel, and even the forum. Brothers, I have bad news. We dug out a big treasure in the Arctic abyss. You must be mentally prepared. Guild Master, I made a mistake, but don't be afraid. There are many people who made mistakes this time. As the saying goes, the law does not punish the masses. I don't think I'll be hunted down, but I still want to ask, if I'm hunted down, will you protect me? Weak eyes. I don't want to be the great demon king. Wailing. Actually, what the players at the scene did not know was that even if they did not dig, the Ice Ghost Clan would still appear under the broken barrier. However, at this moment, the players at the scene thought that it was their fault. They were the ones who dug out this unbeatable big boss. Sad, weak, sad. They hugged themselves tightly and trembled. Looking at Icy Cold's cold eyes, the players did not know if he would go crazy and destroy the whole of Bakey. Thinking of this, the scene of the Mansion of the Dead being destroyed and them being driven out of Bakey appeared in the minds of many players. A few players with weak hearts were in despair. Chapter 540. After a long period of silence, the Ice Ghost Legion led by Icy Cold had finally appeared. This also alerted Lu Wu, who had been observing the players from behind the scenes. Icy Cold, the leader of the Legion, had the strength of a godly realm warrior. Among his subordinates, the weakest was at the peak of the Ghost King realm, and they only took up less than 1/10 of the Ice Ghost Legion. Lu Wu knew very well what this meant. If Icy Cold was hostile, he could easily wipe out Bakey, and the players would be defenseless. because this was a legion of the heaven-defying alliance that had slaughtered the gods of the heaven realm. The strength of the players could be said to be on a completely different level. Lu Wu was also very helpless about this. If it was a normal game version update, the opponents that the players encountered in the development process would inevitably appear from weak to strong and steadily develop step by step. Certainly, there would not be a force that the players were completely powerless against in the beginning. However, in a game like Battle, this was something that could not be controlled. Because this was a game with the real world as its background, all uncertain factors could appear and exist. Even if Lu Wu was the actual controller of the battle artifact and the game, he could not interfere and influence this. Because he was only the controller of the battle artifact and the players, not the controller of this underworld. What Lu Wu could do was to help the players choose a relatively easy place to start. The rest depended on the players' own efforts, and he could only help the players grow behind the scenes. Therefore, Icy Cold's appearance this time gave Lu Wu a huge headache. At this stage, the strongest combat power among his subordinates was the Evil King. However, to let the Evil King fight against Icy Cold was obviously like throwing an egg against a rock. Although the Evil King had inherited the evil demon god's godly seal and the power of law, he had reached the demigod realm and had the power to rival the gods. However, Icy Cold was also extremely powerful. He was a true god slayer who had personally killed 4 gods of the heaven realm. In addition, Icy Cold controlled an equally terrifying Ice Ghost Legion. This time, even if Lu Wu sent out the Evil King, it would be useless. Lu Wu had also asked Lil Bailey about this. Lil Bailey's answer was that if they fought, the Evil King would definitely lose. Under such circumstances, Icy Cold's attitude toward the players was particularly important. If he was hostile to the players, then the Bakey players would have a hard time. At this moment, Lu Wu was observing Icy Cold through the artifact. He wanted to know the purpose of this ancient general who had been sealed for a long time. He scanned the players around him. Freezing Cold was certain that these creatures had never existed in the land of Bakey. His gaze gradually turned from sharp to cold. This should not be the enemy of the Ice Ghost battle group. It was because they were a new species in the land of Bakey. Just like the Ice Ghost clan, they were born in this world. Their only enemy was the Bakey Divine clan and the Ice Snow clan who had abandoned them and imprisoned them in the frozen world for countless years. After being sealed in ice for so long, his consciousness had yet to completely awaken. He pondered for a long time, then walked toward the players closest to him. Seeing Icy Cold walking over, the players wailed in the live chat channel. F***CK, are we going to fight now? Don't. It's over. I just looked at the panels of the subordinates behind him. They're all ghostly emperors and ghostly kings. How are we going to fight them? Even if we throw our lives away, it won't be enough. I can see the dark future of Bakey. I want to take my own life to atone for my sins. Is a new expansion pack, The Great Escape, about to be released? Woo woo. Freezing ice from the Ice Ghost clan of Bakey. As he walked in front of the players, Frozen raised his sword and patted his left chest lightly, revealing his identity to the players. Freezing Ice's action stunned the players. Obviously, it was the first time they met someone with such strength who spoke in such a friendly manner. Previously, the opponents that the players had encountered, from the very first one to the Sea King to the 9 luminaries, were all extremely rude. They acted as if they were stronger than you, so you were a F***king grandson. Therefore, the player's first impression of freezing ice was that of a great demon was also influenced by this. After all, the previous god-level master, the demonic god, was simply a world-destroying demon king. Not only did he destroy the burial ground of Bakey the moment he was born, but he also beat Tao Wu to death while fishing. He looked exactly like a fierce god. However, they had never met someone like Freezing Ice, who had the strength of a godly state, but had such a friendly attitude. Therefore, the players could not help but be stunned. In fact, what the players did not know was that a person's position determined his way of thinking. All the forces that the players had encountered before were extremely cruel and mercenary. It was precisely because they lived in the law of the jungle that they had to do evil in order to survive and plunder everything that was beneficial to them as much as possible. However, Freezing Ice was different. He stood at a higher position. He used to be a member of the Heaven-Defying Alliance. He had been fighting for the divine clan of Baki and the underworld all his life. Therefore, the creatures of the underworld were of the same origin in Freezing Ice's eyes. He also mistakenly thought that the players were a new race born in Baki. Most importantly, they had no grudges with the players, nor did they have any conflicts of interest. Therefore, Freezing Ice had no hostility towards the players. However, the players had not come into contact with Freezing Ice's level. They thought that the powerhouses of this world were all like the demonic god, so they felt that Freezing Ice's attitude was really strange. Can you tell me what time is it in the Six Realms calendar? Looking at the dumbfounded players in front of him, Freezing Ice's eyes glowed blue as he asked again. Six Realms calendar? What's that? The player in front of Freezing Ice asked in a low voice. What's the current calendar of this world? Freezing Ice frowned slightly. Calendar that. 2321. I'm not sure if it's right. The player continued to answer in a low voice in order not to offend Freezing Ice. Obviously, this answer also confused Freezing Ice. The unified calendar of the entire underworld was calculated according to the operation of the six realms of reincarnation. Each revolution counted as a day, which was similar to the alternation of the sun and the moon in the human world. Therefore, when he heard that it was 2321, Freezing Ice could not compare it with the reincarnation calendar that he was familiar with. Since his consciousness was not fully awakened, Freezing Ice pondered for a while before he asked again. Where is the ruling deity of the land of Baki now? Ruling deity? There is no deity in Baki. The player said in shock. There is no deity. Hearing this, Freezing Ice's body trembled. His sharp eyes stared at the player and asked again, where is the divine clan of Baki? The divine clan of Baki? There is no such race. The player was about to cry. He felt that he could not understand what Freezing Ice was asking. Hearing this answer, Freezing Ice was in disbelief. The divine clan of Baki was the creator of this region and also the ruler of Baki. Now that he heard that the divine clan of Baki no longer existed, the first guess that came to his mind was that the Heaven-Defying Alliance had been destroyed. If that was not the case, why would the divine clan of Baki disappear? Freezing Ice knew very well how powerful the divine clan of Baki was. In the underworld, there might be many deities, but there were very few forces that could be called a divine clan. The divine clan of Baki was one of the best among them, and it was also one of the most powerful forces in the underworld. The divine clan of Baki was at its peak when the Heaven-Defying Alliance was established. Under the leadership of Bailey, the divine clan of Baki had recruited many talented experts, and many deities had joined them. These people were fed up with the law of the jungle in the underworld and were willing to follow their leader, Bailey, to fight against the Heaven Realm and take back everything that had been lost. At that time, the divine clan of Baki was already one of the most powerful forces in the underworld. Its scale was unprecedentedly large, and it had fought against the Heaven Realm several times, killing many deities from the Heaven Realm. Therefore, when he heard that the divine clan of Baki had disappeared, the first thing that came to Freezing Ice's mind was that the divine clan of Baki had been destroyed. The anger that emerged in his heart was like a bucket of cold water. Freezing Ice could not believe that all of this was true. He had wanted to question Bailey personally why she had sealed them in the boundless coldness. He also wanted to make the divine clan of Baki pay the price for their betrayal. However, at this moment, all of this no longer existed, so how could he carry it out? The blue light in Freezing Ice's eyes flickered, and his heart was full of confusion. He thought that he had found a target for the Ice Ghoul clan to fight again, but now it seemed like a joke. They did not belong to this era, and the Heaven-Defying Alliance that remembered their glory might have already disappeared with the wind. Do you need any help? The fat boy in front of him continued to ask in a low voice. At this time, a group of players in the live chat channel were teaching him how to speak. In short, he should never start a fight, or the mansion of the dead would be blown up again. If he said the wrong thing, he would smash his head. The fat boy wanted to cry, but had no tears. Freezing Ice was already very scary in his eyes, and now he was being threatened by the players in the live chat channel. The price of saying the wrong thing was to become a sinner. How could he bear it? The fat boy's answer made Freezing Ice very confused at this time. He did not know where he should go, and he did not even know where the Ice School clan's future was, because there was no home anymore. Who was in charge of baking now? After a moment of silence, Freezing Ice could not help but ask, "We." The fat boy who wanted to say, "I," reflexively changed it to "we" after seeing Freezing Ice's sharp gaze. This was also a habit of the players. After all, every player said that they were the only heir of Bakey, and they often joked that others were fake and that they were the legitimate heir. Hearing this, the blue light in Freezing Ice's eyes faded. He turned to look at his clan, which was a broken body that had been baptized by war and ravaged by time. Because of their faith, they raised their weapons and fought countless bloody battles. Not only did it not extinguish the passion in their hearts, but it also made them braver. However, at this moment, this familiar yet strange world seemed to have nothing that they wanted anymore. The Bakey Divine clan was destroyed, and no one could give him an answer to the doubts in his heart. The Heaven-Defying Alliance was destroyed, and they were even less qualified to represent the underworld to fight against the Heaven Realm. At this time, Freezing Ice felt that he and his clan had been eliminated by the new era, and they seemed out of place. It seemed that continuing to sleep was the best ending for them. Thinking of this, Icy Cold looked confused. He turned his head and looked at the crack, the place where they had been imprisoned for countless years. At this moment, all the Ice School clan members were also silently looking at their clan leader, waiting for him to guide them in the next direction. However, at this moment, they also saw the loneliness and confusion in the clan leader's eyes. However, they did not speak and just waited quietly. No matter what choice he made, they would continue to follow him. Silence again, at this moment. When he inherited the position of clan leader of the Ice School clan, the words that the master that he once respected so much said to him appeared in his mind. Someone has to stand up. This person may not be the founder of the new era of the underworld, but he will definitely be the one to lead the old era to the end. With a sweet smile, she decided the future direction of the Bakey Divine clan and even established the Heaven-Defying Alliance. According to her, the Heaven-Defying Alliance was the guide to the end of the old era in the underworld, not the creator of the new era. Sacrifice was inevitable, and so was destruction. It was just to open up a new path for the new era. It was also to awaken the last bit of courage of these underworld gods who were in the old era and were unwilling to fight. At this moment, Freezing Ice suddenly understood that he and his clan actually belonged to the old era, not the new era of the underworld. Roar! Suddenly, Freezing Ice raised the frost sword in his hand and pointed it at the sky. The sharp sword energy soared into the sky, piercing the dark clouds. Even without the guidance of the Bakey Divine clan, even without the name of the Heaven-Defying Alliance, the Ice School clan could still fight for themselves and for the underworld. Since all traces of the old era had been erased, then let's burn the last drop of blood and die together with the old era that once belonged to us. Seeing Freezing Ice's roar, the players' faces turned pale, thinking that Freezing Ice was finally going to make a move. However, at this moment, Freezing Ice looked at the players. "Leave here." "What?" the fat boy asked dumbfoundedly. "Leave here. You will die if you stay here." Many of the players obviously did not understand what he meant. At this moment, 4 blood seals appeared behind Freezing Ice, and a dense blood mist began to spread between heaven and earth. A sobbing and complaining voice echoed between heaven and earth. That was the cry of the Heaven Realm gods who were trapped in Freezing Ice's body. Under Freezing Ice's control, the blood essence that originally belonged to the Heaven Realm gods turned into the crimson winged seal of the Heaven-Defying Alliance, piercing through the sky, shattering the clouds, and hanging in the sky. It was a blatant declaration of war. At this moment, a large number of forces in the underworld were alarmed. Countless gods were shocked. Their gazes passed through the layers of space obstacles and focused on the seal formed by the blood essence of the Heaven Realm gods. The Heaven-Defying Alliance. These gods could not help but cry out. The seal that disappeared for a long time and was forgotten by many forces reappeared. At this moment, they all knew that the turmoil of the underworld was coming. Those guys whose hands were stained with the blood of the Heaven Realm gods had returned. Freezing Ice's decision at this moment even made Lu Wu feel incredulous. Seeing Freezing Ice's action, a smile appeared on the originally dull faces of the clansmen. They knew that the clan leader had made a decision. At this moment, no one felt afraid. Instead, they roared toward the sky excitedly. Streams of blood essence emerged from their backs and soared into the sky, merging into the seal of the heaven-defying alliance in the sky. They were the remnants of the old era and did not belong to this new era. This war was only to keep up with the old era that had passed away until the last drop of blood was shed. Needless to say, all the clansmen understood what the clan leader Freezing Ice's decision was. All they could do was to follow behind him with all their might. The soldiers of the Ice Ghoul clan gathered and increased their fighting spirit. The entire land of Beiki was shaking. The players were sent out of the Arctic abyss with a wave of Freezing Ice's hand. Freezing Ice looked up at the sky, exuding a stubborn and arrogant aura. He waited quietly. The bloody seal of the heaven-defying alliance in the sky was getting bigger and bigger, covering the sky and the sun. At this moment, not only the forces in the underworld, but the gods in the heaven realm were also alarmed. The forces in the heaven realm were unprecedentedly nervous. A large number of supervising gods from the heavenly strategy mirror broke through the barrier of the three realms and descended. There were more and more figures in the sky. It was a familiar formation and a familiar aura. The only thing missing was the red that they were familiar with. At this moment, Freezing Ice's aura changed drastically. At this moment, he was the clan leader of the Ice Ghoul battle team that made the gods tremble in fear. He pointed the frost sword in his hand to the sky. A ferocious smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His killing intent soared into the sky, forming a scarlet mist in the sky. Roar! All the Ice Ghoul clan members roared at the sky. They were like wild beasts declaring war to the gods of the heaven realm. At this moment, Freezing Ice's figure flashed and pierced into the sky like a sharp sword. Boom! The soldiers of the Ice Ghoul clan struck the ground at the same time. The entire iceberg in the Arctic abyss collapsed under the power of the Ice Ghoul clan soldiers. Their figures followed closely behind Freezing Ice and shot into the sky. Ice Ghoul, the newly promoted gods, might be unfamiliar with these people, but the supervising immortal who was leading the team recognized the origin of this force at a glance. A look of disbelief appeared on his face. This was a force of the heaven-defying alliance that had been removed from a list. But now it appeared again. Terror spread in his heart. They were only the heavenly policy mirror that was responsible for monitoring the situation in the underworld. They were not the real fighting force of the heaven realm. Usually, he could kill the remnants under the banner of the heaven-defying alliance. But when faced with the real fighting force of the heaven-defying alliance, he felt great pressure. Quick, defend. They are not ordinary members of the heaven-defying alliance. After coming back to his senses, the supervising immortal shouted at the gods around him. Hearing the immortals roar, all the gods of the heaven realm hurriedly used themselves as energy nodes to set up a formation. In the blink of an eye, a golden formation that covered the sky was formed. Ha ha ha! Seeing this scene, Freezing Ice could not help but laugh wildly. Then, he slammed his head into the golden formation. Roar! The clansmen that followed behind him followed one after another. They slammed into the golden formation like raindrops, bombarding it crazily. At this moment, the supervising immortal's face was still full of terror. But soon he realized one thing. With the combat power of the Ice Ghost troop, their defense formation should have been destroyed instantly. But after so long, they had not broken through the defense formation. Could it be that they had become weaker? Realizing this, the fear on the supervising immortal's face gradually faded. But soon he did not think so. Chains emerged from the bodies of the Ice Ghost troop and pierced the golden formation. Like spiritual snakes, they slithered in the formation and passed through the bodies of the gods on their side. Puff! Except for the supervising immortal who was above the formation, all the gods of the heaven realm present vomited blood at the same time. The formation collapsed instantly. Meanwhile, on the side of the ice ghost troop, their aura was rising steadily as the black chains appeared. Their bodies were gradually covered by the ice blue energy that emerged from their bodies. Their bodies were emitting a bright ice blue light. She did not abandon us. Seeing the chains that had sealed his divine power come out of his body and help them break through the defense formation of the gods, freezing ice's body trembled. Feeling the divine power gradually recovering in his body, freezing ice knew that the Northly god did not abandon them. This was the power of the heaven-sealing law that belonged to her. There was no mistaking it. His divine power was rising steadily. The power of God, slaying that once belonged to him, had returned. Roar! The ice frost sword suddenly slashed forward. A blue half-moon trajectory soared into the sky. All the gods of the heaven realm who were hit along the way were frozen. Wherever the tribe king's sword pointed, nothing existed. The soldiers of the ice ghost troop continued to tear the bodies of the gods along this trajectory. A large number of gods of the heaven realm died at this moment. Stop! The supervising immortal couldn't help but roar. The seven-star jade in his hand turned into a giant shield and pressed against freezing ice. Seeing this, freezing ice's body flashed and faced the giant shield head-on. The ice frost sword in his hand was ignited with ice blue flames. Crack! With one thrust, the giant shield suddenly shattered. Freezing ice's speed did not decrease. He shot toward the supervising immortal. The combat power of the immortal lord was nothing in freezing ice's eyes, because every mark of divine blood on his back belonged to a heaven realm immortal. If it was not a mortal lord, in freezing ice's eyes, it was not even worthy to be his trophy. Looking at freezing ice who was approaching, the supervising immortal was terrified. At this moment, he was afraid. Facing the infamous ice ghost battle group, he did not dare to make an enemy out of it. His figure suddenly shot up into the sky, pouncing towards the crack that led to the heaven realm that was hanging on the horizon. Die! The ice-blue ice frost sword pierced through the sky and stabbed toward the supervising immortal with freezing ice's hatred for the gods of the heaven realm. When the blue sword spirit touched the supervising immortal, his body trembled, and he could not help but spit out a mouthful of golden blood. Looking at the space crack that was getting closer and closer, he did not stop. He gritted his teeth and sped up again. When he got close to the space crack, his body disappeared into it. Freezing ice's eyes were covered with blue light. Just as he was about to chase after the immortal, the heaven-sealing lock appeared in his body again and suddenly pierced into the crack. The power that belonged to the Northly deity broke through layers of space barriers and bound the supervising immortal who was flying toward the heaven realm, forcefully pulling him back to the underworld. Ha ha ha! Looking at the supervising immortal who appeared again, freezing ice laughed wildly and waved the ice frost sword in his hand without hesitation. The broken long sword was mixed with ice blue flames. It suddenly slashed across the supervising immortal's neck with a touch of gold. The body of the supervising immortal began to condense into ice crystals, covering his whole body bit by bit. At the last moment before his consciousness was obliterated, the supervising immortal seemed to hear freezing ice's wanton laughter. Then, the endless darkness in front of him eroded him and devoured him. At the moment when freezing ice killed the supervising immortal, his clansmen behind him also ended their battle. Their bodies were bathed in the blood of the gods. The long-awaited god-killing battle, which had been silent for a long time, made their blood boil again. They roared at the sky and provoked the crack that led to the heaven realm. The gods of the underworld who were watching this from the unseen world were all horrified at this moment. Hundreds of gods and one immortal lord had all fallen in a single exchange of blows. The Ice Ghost Troop, a powerful clan from the heaven-defying alliance that was almost forgotten, announced to all the gods of the underworld in such an arrogant way. They had woken up, and their original intention to kill the gods had never changed. Chapter 541. His withered body was bathed in the god's blood. The soldiers of the Ice Ghost clan raised their heads and looked at the crack in the sky. The madness in their eyes could not be suppressed, and their bodies were trembling. Ha ha ha! Frost's hysterical laughter came. At this moment, the broken armor on his body cracked, revealing a body that was riddled with scars. He reached out and grabbed forward, and the blood that belonged to the supervising immortal lord immediately began to flow towards him. As it shrank, the blood of the supervising immortal lord turned into a mark that imprinted itself on his back, turning into the 5th golden mark. Roar! The soldiers of the Ice Ghost race imitated the chief Icy Cold's method and grabbed forward fiercely. The divine blood that was scattered in the world started to converge and imprinted on their backs. After slaying a god, this was the spoils of war, the glory, and the medal of merit for every soldier of the heaven-defying alliance. Is that enough? Icy Cold grinned and looked at his clansmen. Kill! The soldiers of the Ice Ghost race roared in unison, and an enormous killing intent soared into the sky, causing the cracks in the space to shake violently as if they would be torn apart at any time. They looked up at the sky, anticipating the arrival of the gods. They longed to slay the gods. At this moment, the hearts of the gods in the underworld trembled. The heaven-defying alliance, which had disappeared for a long time, announced their arrival to the heaven realm and the underworld in such a violent manner. Even if they possessed the same combat strength, even if their hearts yearned for it, who would have the courage to carry this heaven-defying flag? But at this moment, the Ice Ghoul tribe did it. The symbol of the pair of wings in the sky that had yet to disperse represented the heaven-defying alliance. Everyone once thought that the old era of the heaven-defying alliance was over. Even if they occasionally showed themselves, they would be hunted down by the forces of the heaven realm. Basically, they would fall before long. In this era, who else could be like the Ice Ghost battle group, who could carry the heaven-defying flag and fearlessly fight against the forces of the heaven realm? Countless underworld gods fell silent at this moment. They had yearned to fight against the forces of the heaven realm countless times, just like the Ice Ghost clan. But in the end, all of this was just a desire. They did not have the courage, nor were they prepared to sacrifice themselves for this. While waiting, the frost sword in Icy Cold's hand pointed at the space crack hanging in the sky. This time, let's change the method and enter the gate of heaven. His tone was light, but the words he said were shocking. Kill their way to the heaven realm. This was something that many powerful ancient gods didn't even dare to think about. But at that moment, Freezing Cold said it in such a casual and unrestrained manner. It was as if he was asking his clansmen how they felt about going hunting. None of the Ice Ghost race's soldiers made a sound, but the fanaticism in their eyes was the best answer. Heaven trampling. While speaking, Icy Cold's figure turned into a blue streamer and shot into the heaven realm passage that had not yet closed. There was no need for too many words. Following closely was the best form of support. There was no way back, and their corpses would be buried in another world. But for Freezing Ice and her clansmen, what was there to be afraid of? None of the warriors who joined the heaven-defying alliance expected to have a good ending. Just as she had said, the heaven-defying alliance was merely a guide to the end of the old era in the netherworld. Therefore, the glory of creating a new era had never belonged to them. Dying in battle on the road to a new era was their final destination. Since their former comrades had already passed away, the Ice Ghost clan was also unwilling to sleep underground and be the witness of a new era. Although the dusk of the old era was poignant and beautiful, that was their world. They belonged there. Their broken bodies were only there to shine the last light, to ignite the afterglow of the old era that belonged to the heaven-defying alliance, to illuminate the path ahead of the new era that was still in darkness. Roar! The soaring killing intent shook the heaven realm passage. All the warriors of the heaven-defying alliance and the Ice Ghost clan rushed toward the heaven realm without hesitation. They rushed toward the dusk of the old era that belonged to them with great vigor. The moment the heaven realm passage closed, the gods of the netherworld who were watching everything fell silent. Some clenched their fists, some had red eyes, and some roared at the sky. The hatred that had been suppressed at the bottom of their hearts was awakened again. Were they really going to be bullied like this? All the gods of the netherworld asked themselves. When all the gods of the netherworld asked this question, the Ice Ghost clan had actually succeeded, because the afterglow of the old era had ignited the fury of the new era. The pair of red wings that represented the heaven-defying alliance was the flag that the Ice Ghost clan carried and followed them into the Heaven Realm passage. This heaven-defying symbol that was condensed from the blood essence of the gods of the Heaven Realm was the first gift that the Ice Ghost clan gave to the Heaven Realm. When they passed through the Heaven Realm passage, countless figures were already waiting there. Powerful immortals, divine beasts surrounded by immortal energy, and the endless figures of the gods of the Heaven Realm were floating in the sky. 10,000, 100,000, countless gods of the Heaven Realm gathered in front of the gate of heaven. Staring at the front, the killing intent in freezing cold's heart swelled. This world that was surrounded by spiritual energy was black in the eyes of freezing cold and his clansmen. It was dark, deep, and completely black. A hideous smile appeared at the corner of his mouth again. He stretched out his hand and pointed at the sky. The symbol of the heaven-defying alliance slowly floated in the sky behind him, hanging high in this world that belonged to the gods. Ice Ghost clan, I thought you were already destroyed. I didn't expect that you still exist. But this time you can't go back. An old man riding a green ox looked at freezing cold with a gloomy face and said, "Go back." Ha ha. Freezing cold couldn't help but laugh. The only way to go against the heavens was to move forward. There was no way back. He pointed the frost sword in his hand at the old man riding a green ox. His long blue hair danced in the wind, and there was only endless fighting intent in freezing cold's eyes. Kill! The soldiers of the Ice Ghost clan roared in unison. Their eyes were covered by blue light, and their bodies were trembling in the breeze. They were not afraid, but excited for the upcoming final battle. The blood in their hearts had been boiling for a long time, and they needed divine blood to cool down. I remember that your name is Freezing Cold, right? How about submitting to the Heaven Realm? You are a respectable warrior who can kill immortals at the God Realm. You shouldn't fall into the 6 realms. The old man riding a green ox looked at Freezing Cold and said again, "I'll kill you first later. You talk too much." Freezing Cold's eyes were covered by blue light, and the frost sword in his hand suddenly stabbed at the old man riding a green ox. A spot of blue light instantly appeared in front of the young man and the old man. Ox. Seeing this, the old man didn't move. He waved the horsetail whisk in his hand and patted the head of the green ox under him. Moo! The green ox gently dug the ground with his front hooves, raised his head, and roared. Before Freezing Cold's sword spirit could get close, it was shattered by the violent sound waves. Do you think you can win? The ones here are only part of the forces of the Heaven Realm. You can't even defeat me. How can you fight against us? The old man's eyes flashed, and he looked at Freezing Cold with curiosity. Is it important? Freezing Cold looked at the old man riding a green ox and said with a ferocious smile, "Kill, roar." A beast-like roar came from the Ice Ghoul clan as they followed their patriarch, Freezing Ice, and rushed towards the gods that filled the sky. With the unyielding fighting spirit that belonged to the old era of the heaven-defying alliance, they rushed to the old era of dusk without hesitation. That was the battlefield that belonged to them. At this moment, the magic arts of the gods in the Heaven Realm came toward the soldiers of the Ice Ghost clan like raindrops. The bodies of the soldiers withered as they advanced. Their broken bodies couldn't bear much damage, but their hearts were like a vast ocean, carrying the pride and persistence of the heaven-defying alliance. They had been looking forward to this battle for a long time. After a long time, it finally came. As they advanced, the pain their bodies endured caused them to laugh hysterically. When the Ice Ghost clan reached the front of the gods in the Heaven Realm, almost all the clansmen were killed, and everyone was bathed in blood. But no one felt sad. Instead, they carried the faith and will of the dead clansmen and continued to kill the gods in the Heaven Realm. It's over. At this time, the old man riding a green ox sighed and waved his horsetail whisk. A huge shadow of a furnace appeared out of thin air, locking freezing cold in front. Refined. With a light sound, the furnace began to shake, and the raging flame inside instantly wrapped freezing cold. Ha ha! The pain of his skin being burned didn't make freezing cold wail, and the fighting spirit in his heart also jumped like a raging fire. The frost sword slashed on the furnace fiercely, and the power of extreme cold instantly penetrated the furnace and spread out. In the surprised eyes of the old man riding a green ox, the flame inside the furnace was all frozen, and the whole furnace exploded at this time, turning into broken ice pieces flying everywhere. He was only in the god realm, not even reaching the ancient god realm, but freezing cold's combat power shocked the old man. At this moment, he thought of the former top 10 battle groups of the heaven-defying alliance, and freezing cold could become one of the battle group leaders at the god realm, which was enough to show how terrifying his talent was. Thinking of this, the old man's face became extremely gloomy. Freezing cold's talent was too high. If he let the tiger return to the mountain, he might become another Northly god. He waved his horsetail whisk again, trying to control freezing cold. At this moment, freezing cold turned his head and looked at him. The killing intent in his eyes seemed to overflow. His figure disappeared in a flash, and when he reappeared, he was already next to the old man riding a green ox. The extreme cold spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered, forming an ice-blue vortex on the tip of the sword. Kill! Moo! The huge sound wave hit him head-on, but all freezing cold's faith was concentrated on the sword in his hand. He did not take a step back, nor did he even defend. Under the impact of the huge sound wave, fine wounds appeared on his body, and blood flowed. Roar! This sword broke through the sound wave, and directly slashed toward the old man riding a green ox. I said I will kill you, so I must kill you. Divine pardon. The old man spat out a green gas, which turned into an air shield in front of him. Freezing cold sword was blocked in an instant, and could not go any further. You are no match for me. Before the old man finished speaking, 2 chains appeared on freezing cold's back. They suddenly pierced through the air shield and bound his body to the ground. At this moment, the old man was horrified to find that his divine power was being pressed into his body bit by bit and could no longer be mobilized. The power of Heaven Lock, the North Lee's Heaven Lock. The old man screamed in horror. Die! The shield was broken, and the frost sword suddenly slashed down, taking off the head of this arrogant high-level immortal. The 6th, as he clenched his fist, the essence blood belonging to the old man was plundered, turned into a god's blood seal, and imprinted on his back, becoming freezing cold's trophy. Ha ha! Turning his head to look at the gods in the sky, freezing cold's laughter was extremely arrogant. Kill! Freezing cold raised the frost sword in his hand and pounced on them under the disbelieving gaze of all the gods in the heaven realm. The scene seemed to freeze at this moment. All his clansmen had died in the battle, and the only one left, freezing cold, held the broken frost sword in his hand and pounced on the gods in the sky. Like a moth flying into a flame, the shout of kill resounded between heaven and earth. This scene shocked all the gods in the sky. In this battle, the battle posture of the ice ghost troop and freezing cold was engraved in the hearts of the gods in the heaven realm, and it could not be erased. The red sun hanging high in the heaven realm had already sunk to the horizon, and the light of dusk reflected the figure that soared into the sky. Just like the mission of the heaven-defying alliance had come to an end, accompanied by that figure, it bloomed with the last afterglow. At this moment, the last regret was gone. Looking at the heaven lock that accompanied him, freezing cold knew that he was not abandoned by the Bakey celestial clan. Although he still did not understand why. Was it important? The afterglow of dusk shone on his face, and a smile appeared on freezing cold's face. Although he wanted to see the rising sun tomorrow, freezing cold knew that it did not belong to him. This was his home. When freezing cold's broken body fell from the sky, countless gods in the underworld roared at the sky. At this time, the underworld was raining blood. It was as if they were respectfully bidding farewell to the warrior of the old era of the heaven-defying alliance and the new era. However, his unyielding will ignited something that had been sealed in the hearts of the gods in the underworld. The hatred in their hearts could not be contained, and the thought of defying the heavens that they did not dare to mention was awakened again. They were waiting for the moment when the time was right to take over the blood-stained flag of the old era and create a new era that belonged to the underworld. Chapter 542. In the underworld, a rain of blood rained down. Countless hidden underworld gods were stirred up at this moment. The hatred buried deep in their hearts was awakened. In the hell region, several demon gods broke through the restraints of the earth and came to the world. In the central sea region of the Yellow Spring, huge underwater stone statues rose into the sky, and a terrifying pressure swept across the entire sea. In the Chionyo region, the self-sealed Chionyo broke free from its restraints and broke through the seal barrier with a roar. At this moment, the underworld gods were furious. Countless figures rose into the sky and bathed in the rain of blood. Their crimson eyes stared at the heavenly realm, and their killing intent continued to grow. Old friends, it's time to begin. Let's begin the war of gods. Use your territories as your territory and attack each other. Keep getting stronger. Come, devour each other, and let the strongest carry the banner of defiance. At this moment, these ancient underworld gods were ready to set off a new era in the underworld. At this moment, a large brass bell appeared in the central sea region of this world. As it shook lightly, the sound of the bell spread throughout the entire underworld. An old voice appeared in the minds of these ancient gods. Wait, endure. They were very familiar with this voice. It belonged to one of the rulers of the underworld, Emperor of Dongyu. Roar. At this moment, all the underworld gods let out angry roars of unwillingness. 10,000 years had passed, and they still had to wait. Were they really going to wait until their blood ran cold? All the ancient gods resisted the sound of the bell in their minds and glared at the sky. Believe me, that moment will come. You are not the pioneers of a new era. Wait, keep waiting, it will come. The sound of the bell reverberated continuously, suppressing the hostility in these ancient gods' hearts. And these ancient gods could only roar to vent their anger. Heavenly realm. The symbol of the heaven-defying alliance, formed by the blood of a heavenly god, was slowly fading away. It seemed to represent the end of the old era belonging to the heaven-defying alliance. Icy Cold's broken body fell straight to the ground from the sky, but the 6 golden marks on his back seemed to be mocking the gods. Was it over? All the heavenly realm gods asked themselves. They had once thought that the era that belonged to the heaven-defying alliance had long since ended, that the underworld realm no longer had the power to resist, and that it would forever be suppressed by the heaven realm. However, the appearance of Icy Cold and the Ice Ghost clan was like a slap on the face of these conceited heaven realm deities. Even though the battle had ended and the enemies had been eliminated, not a single celestial realm deity had left. They were in a trance as they looked at freezing Cold's lifeless body. Those ancient heaven gods who had lived through the era of the heaven-defying alliance saw the shadow of a person in Icy Cold. That nightmare was the one who had personally carried the banner of defying the heavens and led many gods of the underworld to declare war on them. Her name was Bei Li, and it seemed to be her destiny. She had mastered the incomparably powerful heaven-sealing law, bringing death and fear to many deities in the heaven realm. Although the era that belonged to her had already passed, her existence was engraved in the hearts of every heavenly god of that era. The suppression of the heaven-defying alliance was also due to fear. At this moment, the souls of Icy Cold and his clansmen were captured by the invisible 6 paths of reincarnation and entered the reincarnation passage. However, no god would allow them to leave. They were afraid that another enemy like Bei Li would be born in the future. Countless invisible giant hands grabbed downward at this moment, pointing directly at the invisible souls of Icy Cold and the Ice Ghost clan. Just as the old man Azurox had said, they would never be able to go back. Even entering the 6 paths of reincarnation was absolutely impossible. Even reincarnation was not allowed by the deities in the heaven realm. The only result was complete destruction. In fact, the moment they stepped into the heaven realm passage, Icy Cold and his clansmen had already known this result. Their bodies would be buried in the heaven realm, and their souls would be destroyed. However, just as these invisible giant hands were about to grab the souls of Icy Cold and the Ice Ghost clan, the suction in the 6 paths of reincarnation suddenly increased, and a full moon appeared in front of the heavenly gate. The souls of Icy Cold and the Ice Ghost clan were instantly sucked into this full moon. At this moment, the deities in the heaven realm were shocked. They immediately activated their divine power, and the invisible giant hands immediately grabbed the full moon, trying to grab the souls of Icy Cold and the Ice Ghost clan out of the 6 paths of reincarnation passage. However, at this moment, the full moon dispersed with the wind, and these deities from the heaven realm grabbed nothing. At this moment, in the artifact space, Lu Wu's face was extremely solemn. The soul coins were burning violently, and nearly 1 million soul coins were turned into soul power to support the 6 paths of reincarnation passage every second. At the same time, the souls of Icy Cold and the Ice Ghost clan were quickly approaching the artifact. It's going to succeed, it's going to succeed. Seeing that these souls were about to enter the artifact space, a smile appeared on Lu Wu's sweaty face. However, at this moment, just as these souls were about to enter the artifact space, a golden figure appeared in the 6 paths of reincarnation passage. This was a golden statue surrounded by 10 prayer beads with 2 horns on its head. It was sitting cross-legged, and under its body was a cloud formed by colorful mist. Under the erosion of the terrifying 6 paths of reincarnation, it stood quietly, as if it was originally a part of the 6 paths of reincarnation, perfectly integrated with the surroundings. At this moment, it slowly opened its eyes, and one of the prayer beads circling around its body trembled slightly. Suddenly, Icy Cold and the souls of the Ice Ghost clan were fixed in the 6 paths of reincarnation, unable to move an inch forward. At this moment, Lu Wu was anxious because 1 million soul coins were being consumed every second. If this went on, even he would be powerless. Heaven Ruler, East Emperor Tai. Looking at the golden figure through the artifact space, Bailey's face instantly turned pale. At this moment, Lu Wu did not care about what Bailey said at all. He gritted his teeth and looked at the golden figure standing in the 6 paths of reincarnation passage. Then he said, "Bailey, how many soul coins do you have left?" 5, 8 billion. Bailey, who came back to her senses, quickly answered. Then 10 million soul coins per second, burn them. Following Lu Wu's roar, the artifact space sped up. Countless soul coins turned into blue soul power and burned continuously, strengthening the 6 paths of reincarnation passage. The suction force increased by 10 times, but East Emperor Tai still stood there quietly, without any change in his expression. His consciousness penetrated the 6 paths of reincarnation, constantly searching for the source of this power. However, to his surprise, the source of this power was very strange. East, south, west, north, up, down, it seemed like this power was everywhere, but it also seemed to change its position in an instant, making it impossible to find out where the source was. Come on. Lu Wu's eyes were red, and his body, which was controlling the artifact, kept trembling. Sweat was dripping down his forehead. Although Lu Wu had never seen these Ice Ghost clan members before, for some reason, he felt a sense of familiarity. It was as if they were once friends, relatives, and comrades who had gone through thick and thin together. When the Ice Ghost clan was fighting with their lives on the line, Lu Wu felt a dull pain in his heart, as if he saw old friends bidding farewell to him. These warriors who fought for the underworld and for the new era, Lu Wu would never let them be tainted by the gods of the heaven realm after they died. They were the warriors of the underworld, and even in death, they belonged to the underworld. At this moment, Lu Wu could not bear to see their souls vanish. Come on. In the midst of his roar, the artifact space sped up. This time, Lu Wu chose to burn 100 million soul coins every second. A huge amount of soul power was injected into the 6 paths of reincarnation from the artifact space, enveloping the souls of freezing ice and the Ice Ghost clan members, pulling them into the artifact space bit by bit. This time, Dongwang Tai's face finally showed some emotion. However, at the moment when Lu Wu thought he was about to succeed, the second prayer bead that was hovering around Dongwang Tai trembled and once again resisted the pull of the artifact space. Seeing this, Lu Wu's face turned pale, but he did not give up. How many soul coins do I have left? 4, 6 billion. Then 1 billion. Following Lu Wu's roar, a larger amount of soul coins than before flowed into the 6 paths of reincarnation. At this moment, Lu Wu only had 4 seconds. He decided to bet all his soul coins on the future of freezing ice and the Ice Ghost clan. Looking at Lu Wu's determined face, Bailey suddenly felt that Lu Wu had really changed at this moment. Usually, he acted like he did not want to do anything, just wanted to be idle, and was afraid of trouble. However, at this moment, the figure of him fighting with the Ice Ghost clan for freezing ice made her feel that Lu Wu had really changed and grown up. 1 second, 2 seconds. The souls of freezing ice and the clansmen were slowly approaching the artifact space under the powerful force. They were about to succeed. However, at this moment, a brass bell suddenly appeared in the 6 paths of reincarnation. As it swayed gently, the bell rang. Lu Wu's last hope was cut off and extinguished by the bell. The souls of freezing ice and the clansmen could no longer move forward. They were fixed in the 6 paths of reincarnation by the power of Dongwang Tai. You still found me, Dongwang. At this moment, a figure appeared in the 6 paths of reincarnation. This person's figure was blurry, surrounded by colorful law belts, ancient and mysterious. Looking at the familiar figure not far away, Dongwang Tai was silent for a moment. It's you. It seems like I was hallucinating just now. Hallucinating? What do you mean? The great emperor of the Dong Yu asked, slightly confused. It's fine, but I don't quite understand. Are they worth your effort? The great emperor of the Dong Yu knew what Dongwang Tai was referring to. He smiled faintly. They belong to the underworld, don't they? That's where they belong. But you promised that the traitors of the heaven-defying alliance are not members of the underworld. Dongwang Tai laughed, and he laughed very happily. You violated the treaty of the 3 realms that we set, and broke the rules. The great emperor of the Dong Yu stood quietly in the 6 paths of reincarnation without a word. After a while, he tore off one of the law belts around him and threw it to Dongwang Tai. How about this? The purple law belt floated to Dongwang Tai's side and slowly merged into one of the telekinesis beads. Looking at the great emperor of the Dong Yu, Dongwang Tai did not speak anymore. His figure slowly disappeared in the 6 paths of reincarnation. The souls of freezing ice and his clansmen also shattered with the disappearance of Dongwang Tai. At this moment, only the great emperor of the Dong Yu, Lu Wu, and Bailey were left in the 6 paths of reincarnation. Lu Wu's heart skipped a beat when he saw the souls of freezing ice and his clansmen shatter. Fragmented images suddenly appeared in his mind. In the images, a blurry figure asked him, "My lord, can we succeed?" At this moment, Lu Wu could not help but murmur, "Someone has to stand up. This person may not be the founder of a new era in the underworld, but he will definitely lead the way to the end of the old era." "Are you afraid?" The blurry figure answered, "Haha, I'm not afraid. In fact, I'm very happy. Why? Because I believe that after embarking on this path of no return, the Ice School clan will become famous in the 3 realms. This is war, not a child's play. I'm very serious. I, freezing ice, swear that this day will come. You will see it with your own eyes." This was a vow that transcended an era. At this moment, freezing ice did it, but he paid a heavy price. Looking at the crystal soul fragments dispersing in the 6 paths of reincarnation, Lu Wu roared, "Heaven, I must conquer it." Chapter 543. Looking at the soul fragments scattered in the 6 paths of reincarnation, Lu Wu gritted his teeth. Fragments of memories flashed in his mind. Because I believe that after stepping on this path of no return, the Ice Ghoul clan will be famous in the three realms. I am very serious. I, freezing ice, swear that this day will come. You will see it with your own eyes. Although the Northly deity did not see the promise with her own eyes, as a reincarnator, he saw it with his own eyes. This follower used his own way to prove that the words that sounded like a joke back then were not a joke. Although this battle was the afterglow of the setting sun, they bloomed the last brilliance that belonged to the old era. At this moment, Lu Wu's hatred for the Heaven Realm increased infinitely. Your flag, Lu Wu will take it. Lu Wu looked forward to the arrival of that day. Although the heaven-defying alliance had passed away, the flag that was dyed red had not fallen. He would lead the players to follow the path that the Ice Ghoul clan had taken and once again set foot on the Heaven Realm. At that time, he would let the gods of the Heaven Realm understand the meaning of natural disasters and fear. At this moment, Lil Bailey bit her lip and looked at the 6 paths of reincarnation through the artifact, as well as the figure standing there. Did he find us? Lu Wu suddenly asked. Yes, but he can't find us. Lil Bailey nodded. Why'd he do it? Was it for us? At the moment when they were about to succeed, the great emperor of the East Mountain appeared and stopped Lu Wu from receiving the souls of freezing ice and the Ice Ghoul clan. But Lu Wu was not stupid, because the conversation between the great emperor of the East Mountain and the East Emperor Tai had explained that the East Emperor of the East Mountain had taken a risk for him. Yes, it was too dangerous this time. We directly materialized the 6 paths of reincarnation in the Heaven Realm, which has attracted the attention of the East Emperor Tai. That's why he followed us. In fact, with his strength, he could have instantly crushed the souls of freezing ice and the others. But he didn't do so because he was trying to find out where the force that was pulling the souls came from. Lu Wu's heart tightened. He did not expect it to be so dangerous. Just now, when you used 1 billion soul points to power the divine weapon every second, East Monarch Tai hid a part of his consciousness in a Bing Ling and the other souls. Then, he purposely let their souls get close to the divine weapon because he wanted to see who was controlling the 6 paths, reincarnation. The great emperor of the East Mountain saved us. Lu Wu finally understood why the great emperor of the East Mountain would say that. Yes, if it wasn't for the great emperor of the East Mountain, we would have been in danger. However, as the price for breaking the Treaty of the Three Realms, the great emperor of the East Mountain had to pay a law string. Bailey said with a solemn expression. Will Dongwang Tai believe that it was great emperor Dong Yu who did this? He probably believes it because only the great emperor can control the 6 paths of reincarnation in the entire underworld. It was only now that Lu Wu realized how dangerous it was. At this point, Lu Wu suddenly realized something. Why is Great Emperor Dong Yu helping us? Does he know of our existence? Yes, they knew it existed, but they didn't know where it was. They can sense the operation of the 6 paths of reincarnation, but the great emperors have acquiesced to our actions every time. Bailey nodded. Aren't they afraid? They let us control the 6 paths of reincarnation. You're Bei Li's reincarnation. You used to be one of us. Moreover, you were... Lil Bei Li's voice became softer. Under Lu Wu's puzzled gaze, Lil Bei Li suddenly sighed. Anyway, they believe in you. They think that you're their only hope. Although they don't know where you are or what you're planning, they've acquiesced to your actions. Lu Wu sighed when he heard that. Even though he knew that he was the goddess of Bei Li in his past life, he still felt like he was shrouded in mystery. Bei Li was the only one who knew everything, but she was unwilling to tell him the truth, as if she was afraid of something. This made Lu Wu's desire to become stronger even stronger. This was because only strength could allow one to see through the dense fog, and the biggest asset he had was the players. This was a sword with unlimited potential that could shake the heavens in the future, and it was also Lu Wu's biggest asset to pierce through the dense fog. Suddenly, Lu Wu turned his head and looked at the great emperor of Dong Yu, who was still in the 6 paths of reincarnation. The great emperor of Dong Yu's figure was slowly fading away. Before he disappeared, he suddenly muttered to himself, I'm looking forward to it, waiting for it. The The sentence seemed to be muttering to himself, but Lu Wu knew that it was meant for him. Lu Wu did not answer, but he had already made a promise in his heart. The day the players rise would be the day he leads his army to conquer the heavens. Before his figure completely disappeared, the great Emperor of Dong Yu suddenly waved his hand at the reincarnation passage, gathering all the soul fragments in his palm, and they disappeared together with him. Don't worry, although freezing ice and the others can't reincarnate. As long as their soul fragments are still there, there's still a chance. Lil Bailey said. Lu Wu turned his head and looked at Lil Bailey. Don't forget about Sangshu. I was the one who repaired his soul fragments. As long as there's soul power, it won't be a problem. When you're strong enough, you can just ask the great Emperor of Dongyu for the soul fragments. Lil Bailey suddenly said with her hands on her waist. Lu Wu was stunned when he heard her. He then smiled and rubbed Lil Bailey's head. That's amazing. Of course. So, are you happy now, big cat? I'm fine, but you could try to comfort me. How old are you? What a shame. What did you say about me, you old witch? Take this, big cat, and die. On the second day, after freezing ice led his people to conquer the heavenly gate, the turmoil in the underworld gradually returned. Although the players did not understand what happened that day, they could vaguely sense that there was a huge upheaval in the game world. After that, the players were surprised when the game was updated. The new function, Ghost General Trials, was introduced. While the players were excited about it, Lu Wu, who was behind the scenes, changed his previous behavior. He took the initiative to learn from Lil Bei Li how to control and use the artifact. Lil Bei Li was in disbelief at Lu Wu's change. In the past, whenever Lu Wu encountered a problem, he would always say, Lil Bei Li, it's time to work. Stop eating, you'll be stuffed to death. Go, foodie. I'll leave this task to you. Keep it up. Problems should be solved by smart people, right? I can't learn it. It's giving me a headache. You do it. From now on, you'll be the game developer and chief planner, and I'll be the boss, the kind that doesn't do anything. I have an idea, but you'll have to build the specific functions. Why are you looking at me with disdain? I'm a boss. I don't want to learn. I don't want to listen. I don't want to learn, even if I starve to death. It's too difficult. In the past, Lu Wu always had the mentality of a salted fish. He always had the attitude of looking for Bei Li if he had a problem, and looking for her if he didn't. However, at this moment, Lil Bei Li realized that Lu Wu had changed. He started to learn how to use the artifact, which was unbelievable to Bei Li. Suddenly, she had a strange feeling that she was raising a big cat. However, Bei Li fully cooperated with Lu Wu's request. She began to explain in detail and wrote a few beginner books. Although Lu Wu's behavior made Lil Bei Li want to smash his head, she was happy to see such a change. She held back from slamming the table and shouting, Pig! Are you a pig? You don't even know how to do this. Go to hell. At the same time, Lu Wu started to contact Wu Guoyi to discuss the content of the game's publicity. From Lu Wu's point of view, the group of players was still not big enough. There were still a lot of players who had not joined the battle, and publicity was the key to increasing the number of players participating in the battle. This was because there were too many games in this era, and the players had too many choices. The direction of public opinion would be a sharp weapon for the battle to compete for the players' resources from other games. On the player's side, after the start of the Ghost General Trial, Lu Wu did something else, which was to update the number of skills in the skill pavilion. These new skills were the abilities of the soldiers who had died in the Martyr's Palace. With Bei Li's help, Lu Wu extracted these skills from the souls of the Valkyrie, made them into books, and put them in the skill pavilion for the players to learn. Of course, they had to spend soul coins to learn. The update of the game was undoubtedly a time of celebration for the players. Not only was the Ghost General Trial unlocked in the game, but so many new skills were also released. This allowed every character class to cultivate a large number of skills, and there were many more combinations of skills to release. This undoubtedly boosted the strength of the players once again. The appearance of new skills was not as simple as having a few more skills in the skill pane. Many skills could have unexpected effects when used in combination. For example, a mage player could first release a tornado spell, followed by a flame spell, and the skill would form a powerful flamestorm. And this was just the initial combination. The players had already researched 3 or more types of skill combinations and combinations, effectively improving their combat ability. However, to the players, the lousy officials were still lousy officials. Even if there were occasional benefits, they still had to criticize them. Among the topics that the players criticized the officials on a daily basis, the opening of the top-up channel would never change. Of course, Lu Wu chose to ignore this. He even secretly decided that it was time to collect some soul coins. This was because he had spent almost all of his soul coins in the 6 paths of reincarnation. It would not take long to earn back these soul coins. Now that all 5 servers were open, Lu Wu could save up billions of soul coins in no time if he only saved them without spending them. The reason why Lu Wu could not save up soul coins before was that he had spent them on the game development of the various servers. Especially every time an event was opened, he would spend a lot of soul coins. Therefore, he did not have much in stock. But now, he had to save up soul coins because he was really poor. At this moment, the soul coins had shrunk to only 600 million. It seemed like a lot of soul coins, but it was only enough to support one event. It was not enough at all. Back then, the number of players was small, so the number of soul coins spent on the event was not much. However, as the number of players skyrocketed, although the income of soul coins also increased in proportion, the expenditure for each event also increased significantly. Lu Wu would use these soul coins for himself, but in the end, he would still use them on the players. However, to Lu Wu, the feeling of not having any soul coins was really terrible. Therefore, Lu Wu extended his evil claws to the players who were still immersed in the happiness of the update. Lu Wu had already blown the horn of pay to win. How could he stop? Chapter 544. In the KOK Esports Club in Chi Dragon. It was late at night, but there was still a light on in the Esports Club. Under the light, a man stared at the computer screen attentively. His left hand kept typing on the keyboard, and his right hand moved the mouse. The game he was playing wasn't a popular game in reality, but it was definitely a classic game. Even though virtual reality games were rampant, there were still players who stuck to this game. Donglu was one of them. It was like there were still people who played Mario for 10 years in an era when there were so many games. They repeated the game over and over again, breaking their own record. Others might seem bored, but they enjoyed it. Sometimes persistence in a game was a kind of faith. Their happiness wasn't something that others would care about. Time passed bit by bit. Donglu controlled his game character and fought with his teammates against the enemy camp. Sweat dripped from his forehead, but he didn't wipe it away. His eyes were still focused on the computer screen. Actors. They're all F***king actors. My trash teammates are playing me. When the computer screen turned gray, Donglu suddenly stood up, picked up the keyboard, and smashed it hard on the computer screen. As a member of the esports industry, even though he was already 31 years old, his temper hadn't changed. The current esports industry wasn't as pure as it used to be hundreds of years ago. There were too many internal interests involved. The first batch of esports players had very low salaries. They became professional players because of their faith, but the joy of victory was very pure. But after the capital entered the industry, many things would change. On one hand, the benefits brought by capital were that the treatment of professional players became better. They could pursue their faith without being hindered by material things. But the nature of capital was to make money. They made the esports industry no longer pure, and the dark side of fixing matches also emerged. Interests affected people's hearts. Even the boss of the team could make the players give up victory for the sake of profits. There was a systematic chain of interest behind fixing matches. The players were like puppets. No matter how good their skills were, they would be abandoned if they didn't compromise when their superiors ordered them to. Although the life of the professional players had become better, some players found it hard to accept, because they entered this industry for their faith. When they won, they would be happy even if they were eating instant noodles. And Donglu was one of them. He had given up a lot for esports and had chosen to step into this industry. Relying on his excellent technique, he stood out from the crowd and received an invitation from a club to become a professional player. However, what happened next was not as simple as he thought. The truth was completely different. There was an extremely important Heaven's Road World Finals, and he was actually told by his superiors that he had to intentionally throw the match, and that he had to lose this match. The reason was that the boss had bet a lot of money on his team to lose. If the team didn't lose, the boss would suffer a huge loss. What a laughable reason. That was why Donglu didn't go easy on his teammates in that competition. However, his teammates all compromised. Because Team Esports wasn't a single-player game, they still lost in the end. After that, Donglu didn't even need to mention it. He was fired by the club. At that time, Donglu thought that with his amazing skills, there would be another place for him. He decisively picked up his bag and left. However, after changing clubs one after another, Donglu discovered that the reality was just so cruel. He had yet to find an esports club that worked solely for the sake of winning. Perhaps this was a coincidence, but Donglu was completely disappointed with this trip. Having been in this industry for almost 10 years, Donglu had seen too much darkness. There are the bosses of various teams who bought the loss, and both sides crazily sacrificed their players to those who didn't want to win. There were also situations where players who were unwilling to cooperate were replaced midway, and so on. Noobs in esports games weren't the original sin, because more than 80% of players were noobs. They were the backbone of the gaming industry. It was their dedication that allowed those players who were called gods to have the pleasure of oppressing noobs. It was also the existence of noobs that allowed them to stand out and be called gods. However, fixing the match was a stain on fair competition. This was something that Donglu couldn't tolerate. Along the way, his mentality had changed. The only thing that hadn't changed was Donglio's violent temper. For this reason, he had beaten up his teammates and the players of the opposing team. However, every time he made a move, he would regret it. Because of this, he had changed clubs one after another. It had to be said that the moment he beat someone up, he always felt very good. Today, he was fired again, because this time, he was even more excessive. After fixing the match, he even beat up the coach and the players. If it weren't for everyone stopping him, he would have rushed to the boss's office and beat up the boss as well. F***CK Esports. F***CK your dreams. I will smash your heads. With this mentality, he ended his professional career and was even banned by the organizers of Heaven Road. His gaming career was completely over. At the same time that he felt happy, Donglu also felt incomparably disappointed. For this reason, he had worked hard for 10 years. He had given his entire youth to Heaven Road, but he ended up like a stray dog. Looking at the computer screen, Donglu seemed to be in a daze. The broken screen was full of cracks, just like his heart. Taking a deep breath, Donglu picked up the suitcase under his feet and walked toward the door. Originally, he was going to leave tomorrow, but he decided to leave now. At this time, he felt that the air in the club was dirty and disgusting. Also, he just smashed the computer, so he had to pay for it. It was better to leave now. The club was located in the center of the city, and it was brightly lit at night. Walking on the road, Donglu couldn't help but feel empty. The dream that he had persisted in for 10 years was completely gone. Because of the ban, he would never be able to set foot on the stage of victory again. Thinking of this, Donglu turned around and raised his middle finger in the direction of the club. I'm so F***king angry. I really want to beat those bastards to death. Some people were quiet when they were angry, while some people were especially violent when they were angry. Donglu was the extreme of violent, and he wanted to beat someone up. Of course, he would never beat someone up for no reason. After all, he was someone who had gone through 16 years of compulsory education. Walking forward aimlessly, Donglu didn't even know where to go. If he went home, it would be too embarrassing. His parents didn't support him to embark on this career, and because of his persistence, he fell out with his family. He wanted to go back after achieving some results and proudly tell his parents how famous his son was, how many fans he had, and so on. But now, he was just a stray dog who had been expelled. Donglu Ning felt that it was too embarrassing to go back at this time, so he naturally didn't want to. Sighing, Donglu felt that he should find a job first. These years of esports career didn't let him save much money, so the most important thing now was to find a way to make a living. It was already late at night. He took out his phone, opened the app, and looked around at the nearby hotels. Donglu chose a cheap one, then dragged his luggage and walked over. There were some things that the more you wanted to let go, the more you couldn't. Donglu had long thought that this day would come. At that time, he felt that he should raise his middle finger, flip the table, and leave, feeling extremely free and at ease. But when it really came, Donglu was still full of reluctance. His love for games hadn't faded. How he wanted to continue his conquest, trample on many opponents, and build his own undefeated esports dynasty. But an esports dynasty with capital was far less tempting than money. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. The angrier he became, the more he wanted to turn back, grab those players and the boss from their sleep, and smash their heads. But if he really did that, Donglu felt that he should stay in the detention center tonight, not in a hotel. My bad temper that has nowhere to go. My youth is over, and this old man's working life is about to begin. Thinking about it carefully, the rest of my life is simply a tragedy. I don't have the ability, I don't have the talent, and I don't have the skills except for being good at playing games. Moreover, I'm already 31 years old, and my ability is already declining. In the esports industry, one always ate the food of youth. Although humans could live to 100 years old on average, from 30 years old onwards, all aspects of the body would go downhill. It was simply unrealistic to change to another game and walk this path again. At this moment, Donglio's heart was full of resentment. Before entering this industry, he naturally thought about what he would do after retirement. After all, this industry ate the food of youth, and retirement wasn't too far away for professional players. At that time, Donglu thought that after winning a few championships, he would retire and open an online shop like other popular retired esports players, selling meat muffins to make a fortune, and then he wouldn't have to worry about food and clothing in the future. Now that he thought about it, Donglu really wanted to smash his head from 10 years ago with a hammer. He was as stupid as a pig. How could he make such a decision? Now, after 10 years, not only did he not get anything, but all the money he earned was used to pay for medical expenses. As he thought about it, the more he thought about it, the angrier he became. He almost couldn't help but turn around and burn the club down. He had suffered too many losses because of his bad temper, but he would always apologize humbly and promise not to do it again. But every time he attacked, he would always forget about it, of course. When he beat people up, he was often beaten up. After all, there were always people he couldn't beat, and there were also times when he was specifically targeted and attacked. However, Donglu had never lowered his head. With the help of his bad temper, he would fight even if he couldn't win. He was like a Viking warrior, unbelievably headstrong. According to the boss of an esports club, a young man like him wouldn't be able to survive anywhere, so he should retire early, or else he would definitely regret it in the future. Now that the prophecy had come true, Donglu really wanted to thank his whole family. It was so King accurate. After turning intersection, the hotel that he had booked appeared across the road. Donglu looked at his phone, confirmed the name and address of the hotel, and then stepped in. This hotel didn't have any service staff, and it was completely covered by surveillance cameras. After entering the hotel, a room number popped up on Donglio's phone. Donglu was about to step toward the elevator. At this time, he suddenly noticed the advertisement placed on the side of the elevator. On it was a beautiful live battle scene, and from time to time, text explanations appeared, introducing the abilities of both sides in the battle. Out of curiosity, Donglu walked closer and began to stare at the screen carefully. The scene ended in less than 5 minutes, but Donglu felt that it was very exciting. He was really impressed that the movie could have such a smooth and gorgeous battle scene, thinking that it was a new action movie that was about to be released. At this time, a line of words appeared on the advertisement screen. Battle Online, Your Second World. Chapter 545. There are so many clubs and gaming guilds in the game. Could there be some shady dealings going on? Donglu was furious when he thought of those esport clubs that exploited Heavenly Road's last bit of value and were going to harm other games. Looking at Donglu, Yichun felt that he had to send him to the hospital. No, I'm playing Heavenly Road. Donglu shook his head and answered. Hearing this, Donglu could not help but ask. After all, there was money to be made, so why not? Heavenly Road? Do people still play that old game? Yi Chun was stunned. It's okay. It's my fault for attacking first. Donglu shook his head and said. Looking at the expressionless Donglu, who was tied down, Yi Chun apologized again. Battle Royale is number 1. Heavenly Road is the real trash. Yi Chun stared at him, unconvinced. Fortunately, the medical standards were very high now. With the help of the healing robots, Donglio's injuries were quickly treated. Donglu then changed the search keywords and began to search for information about the inside story of Battle Royale. In other words, everyone started from scratch. Even the rich esports clubs could not rely on buying powerful accounts to get ahead of others. His passion for the game was ignited once again. Brother, do you have some misunderstanding about Battle Royale? Yi Chun heard the strangeness in Donglio's words. The pursuit of profit was unchangeable, especially when esports had developed to such a large scale. I want to join your guild and defeat those esports clubs. He struggled to stand up and walked out of the hospital. Anyway, he was bragging about how the graphics were invincible and how the controls were 100% realistic and so on. Brother, I think you should really try this game. You'll know when the time comes. Money may be useful for a game like Battle Royale, but it's nothing to the Battle Royale officials. Therefore, he had a chance to defeat those esports clubs. Many professional esports players that he knew changed their careers because of this game, completely giving up on the path of esports. Where did you learn your combat skills? However, he did not try this game. Instead, he insisted on playing Heavenly Road because it was the path he had chosen. He would never turn back until he stood at the top. Yeah, I hope this game won't be ruined by them. Sometimes, the organizers of the competition would even join in. After the call was put through, Donglu said, at this moment, when he saw the promotional video for the battle, Donglu suddenly thought of a piece of news he had accidentally heard before. All of this left Donglu dumbfounded. He suddenly felt that he, who had always insisted on playing Heavenly Road, was indeed an antique. Virtual games had actually developed to such a level. Thinking of this, Donglu sighed, feeling that he was thinking too much. You don't have to worry about that. Those esports clubs in Heaven's Road are nothing in the war. Don't think that I'm being harsh. Basically, the strongest guilds in the world are all in the war. Those few old clubs in Heaven's Road are nothing. At this time, the handsome man also walked into the elevator. Moreover, he had just found out from the information he had found. Bro, hold on. Not only were there no shady deals involved, but they could also learn about forging, medicine, and other knowledge in the game. They could even improve their grades. I learned it in the game. I don't have time to learn it. Yi Chun answered immediately. Very few games were unaffected by this. After 2 years in the war, many combat moves have become a conditioned reflex. I'm really sorry, bro. Let me help you up. Yi Chun looked regretful. He came to Donglio's side and put his hand on his shoulder. Looking at Yi Chun, who was very sincere, Donglu nodded. F***, bro, are you okay? I didn't mean it. It's a conditioned reflex. This time, he didn't come to this hotel to check in. There was a professional player living on the top floor, and he was going to pull him into his guardian angel. After asking for the address in the game, he specially came to recruit him. There was no company address written on it. It was a very simple line of words. I understand. After all, you haven't played the game before. Yi Chun nodded indifferently. Otherwise, something bad would really happen. Each player in this game only had one account and one character. Their identity was bound and could not be changed. Coincidentally, they cannot be bought or sold. Looking at Donglio's weak face, Yi Chun felt helpless. At the same time, he felt that he was too king strong. Why? Donglu could not help but ask curiously. It is said that many clubs are about to enter the war. At this time, Donglu suddenly said. Yi Chun helped Donglu into the hospital. After a series of examinations, a list appeared in front of Yi Chun. Phone. XXXXX. After all, Heavenly Road was also a world-class popular game like the war, but it was still inevitable. He could not beat them, and he could not afford to offend them. Top floor, thank you. The man smiled slightly. After helping Donglu into the car, Yi Chun sat in the driver's seat. At this time, Donglu did not hate Yi Chun. It was normal for him to get hurt in a fight. After searching for the nearest hospital, Yi Chun chose to drive on autopilot. Then, he turned his head and looked at Donglu, who was lying in the back seat. Thinking of this, Donglu suddenly had a strong desire to try this game. "What's wrong with you? Why are you sighing?" At this time, a voice came from the side, startling Donglu. Most importantly, they had money, so it was too easy to manipulate the fairness of a game in terms of competition. "Bro, what does the entry of clubs and game guilds have to do with the fairness of competition? Can they affect the game officials?" "Yeah, it's nothing. In the game, I learned cooking, medical knowledge, blacksmithing, and even helped many students successfully get into their ideal schools," Yi Chun said with a smile. Donglu half squatted and gasped. He felt his vision was beginning to blur, and he had already realized that he could not beat this guy. "It's okay, I won't die," Donglu said weakly. "What you said is impossible in the war," Yi Chun said helplessly. At this moment, Donglu looked at Yi Chun with a weak face. He felt that under this guy's harmless appearance, he was actually a fierce beast. He took a closer look and was shocked to find that he had broken one of Donglu's ribs. F***CK. You have too much money to burn. For a game like this, server maintenance alone costs a lot of money every year. Donglu could not help but complain. Every time a financial force entered a game, it would certainly make the game full of vitality in the early stage, but when they left, it would often be a mess. He felt that this game was really stubborn and did not want to earn money. It was very much like him, willful. At this time, a silver-white phantom was parked outside. When Yi Chun came to the side, the door opened automatically. After a while, he took out his phone and began to read information about Battle Online. He had been in this industry for so long, but he had never seen a game that could not be won with money. He did not expect this to happen. Otherwise, if he had a random critical hit, he would have kicked this guy to death, even if he had 10 lives. Because the strength of the body was related to the level, it could be improved by killing monsters in the game. Thinking of this, he took out Yi Chun's business card from his pocket, took out his phone, and dialed a number. After a while, they arrived at the hospital. "That's enough. I have an appointment with someone. I'll pay for your medical expenses. This is my number. You can contact me anytime if you need anything. If you want to play Battle Online, you can also find me in the game. I can help you punish those shady clubs," Yi Chun said as he handed over his business card. "Brother, hang in there. I'll send you to the hospital," Yi Chun said apologetically. Seeing that Donglu did not answer, Yi Chun did not speak anymore. He turned his head to look at him from time to time, as if to observe if he would suddenly die. "Why do you care? What rubbish Battle Online? I've never heard of it." Taking a deep breath, Donglu could not help but stare. At this moment, Donglu suddenly felt a little excited. "To be honest, brother, you are too hot-tempered. You attacked directly. Fortunately, you met me this time. If you were a boxer like Boss Liu, your head would have exploded." Therefore, Donglu tried to search for information about learning skills in Battle Online, and so on. Which floor? After entering the elevator and pressing the floor button, Donglu looked at the man. At this time, Yi Chun wanted to follow up with a side kick out of reflex. Suddenly, he realized something and quickly retracted his leg. Although he had always heard of this famous game, he did not know much about Battle Online. It had always been in a range of a very fun game that others said. Not just a lot, it's so many that it's exploding. There are so many major gaming guilds and clubs. Seeing this, Yi Chun tilted his head to the left, causing the punch to miss. He had been in many fights, but it was his first time seeing someone so ruthless. Just now, he also noticed that this guy seemed to have the urge to follow up with a side kick. He had often heard people mention this game. At this moment, Yi Chun could not help but cover his face. However, what Yi Chun had said just now had really piqued his curiosity. In the game, he had made a lot of friends, experienced several large-scale wars, sailed out to sea, fished in a stormy sea with lightning and thunder, and stepped into countless magical and strange places. Thinking of that strange and dazzling world, Yi Chun could not help but smile. Looking at Dongyo's serious face, Yi Chun could not help but laugh. At the same time, he was glad that this was not in the game. At this moment, Donglu suddenly felt that this game would probably go down the road of Heavenly Road, and their goal was Battle Online. "You've practiced martial arts before. Donglu did not even stand firmly before he slid to the ground weakly against the wall. Now, he was a little surprised by Yi Chen's explosive combat power. Because of the huge profits, there would inevitably be open and hidden bets in every game. This was a huge piece of juicy meat. Learned it in the game? You mean Battle Online? Donglu was stunned. No reason. I think it's because I'm stubborn. After thinking about it, Yi Chun gave the standard answer of the foreign players. Because the life of this classic old game, Heavenly Road, was coming to an end. There was not much profit to be gained, even if they persisted. So they had to change to a more popular game. Looking at Yi Chun, Donglu sighed, and then told him about his 10 years of pursuit of esports dreams. But in the end, it was all for naught. Those Heavenly Road esports clubs that were full of shady secrets could be said to have wasted his entire 10 years of youth. Now that these clubs were about to enter Battle Online, they must be trying to reap benefits from it. Without exception, all the video game media gave this game good reviews. Even though he was already 31 years old, and his bodily functions should be on the decline, according to the reports of the gaming media, this game did not have any age restriction. Thinking of what Yi Chun had just said, he suddenly had an idea at this moment, which was to snipe the few esports clubs in Heavenly Road. That's the truth. However, the heroic words of the past seemed like a joke at this moment. He did not stand at the peak, but he still turned back. To Donglu, this was simply unbelievable. To Donglu, this game was full of magic. It was unbelievable that it could attract so many esports players who made a living from this game. Battle Online my *SS. Donglu directly pounced on Yi Chun. Brother, don't fight. I'm a Battle Online player. Haven't you heard that you can't fight Battle Online players? Yi Chun said with a vigilant look. Although he had always heard that Battle Online was fun, Yi Chun's description sounded very ridiculous to him. It was not voluntary, but he was kicked back by reality. This knee to the head almost made him doubt his life. After waiting for the elevator to go down, Yi Chun quickly helped Donglu out of the hotel. I won't *King die, Donglu said feebly. Brother, it's my fault too. I shouldn't have ridiculed your favorite game. It's mainly because I always joke with my friends. I think that games other than Battle Online are all rubbish, so I said it subconsciously. Thinking back, he fell into the pit of Battle Online just to help his sister vent her anger. Are you kidding me? Donglu looked incredulous. He turned his head and saw an extremely handsome man looking at him with a surprised expression. Seeing the words Battle Online on the advertisement screen, Donglu could not help but be stunned. Battle Online, Protect XX Guild. Yi Chun, for ordinary players, it might not be felt, but for professional players, the impact was very obvious. It was simply a killing move. It was 2F** King Cruel. A single spark can start a prairie fire, and benefits can move people's hearts. Sometimes, it's just an opportunity. After playing Battle Online for 2 years, the battle in the game had always been about maximizing damage. Attacking had become a conditioned reflex, but he did not expect it to affect him in reality. It was 2F** King Cruel. At this time, the elevator door opened. Yi Chun saw it and pressed the close button. At the same time, he canceled the button to the top floor and pressed the button to go downstairs. When he first heard the news, Donglu was very emotional. He felt that he had to work harder because there was not much time left for him to fight for the championship. With a simple search, news about the Game Battle League appeared densely and densely. It had been 2 years now, but he was still addicted to it. It's okay. Donglu shook his head and turned to walk to the elevator. Battle Online. Using love to generate electricity. Then, he threw him over his shoulder. Go to hell for calling Battle Online a piece of *T. This sentence was crossed out. Donglu could not help but cough when he heard it. However, all the information he found proved that Battle Online's official character was reliable without any exception. By the way, do you play Battle Online too? The man suddenly asked. He helped Donglu up. Is the competition in this game fair? Don't the game manufacturers make money? Donglu could not help but ask again. At this moment, Donglu's temper could not stop surging. He could not help but want to turn around and smash this person's head. At that moment, Yi Chun raised his knee out of reflex. He kneed Donglu's chest and pushed it back hard. Another large amount of information appeared. For example, a certain player learned sailing skills. A certain player learned to measure the weight of medicinal herbs by hand without the use of tools, and so on. At this moment, Dong Lu did not want to spoil him anymore. He raised his fist and punched him. For some reason, he felt that this guy was showing off in his words. "Can't I?" Dong Lu was stunned. "By the way, did something happen to you? Why do I feel like you have a prejudice against Battle Online?" Yichun could not help but ask. Looking at Yichun, who was leaving, Dong Lu fell into deep thought. Although it was night, modern hospitals were open 24 hours, so there was no need to worry about doctors on duty. So, the esport club in Heaven Road is coming to Battle Online to make trouble? Yichun suddenly felt sympathetic after learning about Dong Liu's experience. Dong Lu suddenly felt much better after he vented out all the depression he had been suppressing at the bottom of his heart. This was what he heard when the coach was chatting with his team members. It was said that several esports clubs in Heaven Road were going to enter Battle Online. Chapter 546. Recently, something interesting happened during the battle, and it caught Lu Wu's attention. Many esports clubs and gaming guilds had sprung up like mushrooms after a spring rain. Of course, Lu Wu did not pay attention to it. However, what surprised Lu Wu was that when these esports clubs joined battle, some players revealed something in the forum. That was, many underground BC websites had open bets for battle individual competition. It was obvious that they were preparing to enter the battle game. Lu Wu was intrigued by this. However, before Lu Wu could deal with it, the enthusiastic battle players took the lead and started investigating the matter while shouting the slogan, "The battle environment is not to be tarnished." Many higher-ups of the major guilds in Beiki mobilized their forces in the real world and started investigating the source of the matter from the underground BC websites. Soon, the dark history of several esports clubs was dug out and exposed in the forum. At the same time, the sanctions against the battle players began. The players showed no mercy to these few guilds. With the Guardian Guild led by Yichun as the main force, they started the purge. This wave of suppression was extremely fierce. Although these esports clubs had invested a lot of money to buy a batch of soul coins from the players in order to develop quickly, they did not even have the ability to fight back. Faced with the attacks of the entire group of battle players, they did not even have the ability to fight back. Although the players did not think that these few guilds had the ability to affect the individual competition. After all, the bosses of the major guilds that were currently participating in the war did not lack money at all. They had never thought of earning a single cent from the war. In fact, they were constantly investing cash into the war in exchange for game resources. Everything was because of their passion. In addition, several of the super guilds basically had wall-level players overseeing them. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for these newly established organizations to form a shady, competitive chain of interests. Not to mention the fact that they could not bribe the wall-level players. The major guilds in battle had crushed these veteran esports clubs in terms of the amount of money they had. However, the players would not allow any blemishes to appear in battle. They responded to the call and began to purge these competition tumors. Most of the players had developed feelings for battle. There were friends here, life in a different world that was like a rebirth, and they were hot-blooded and touched. No matter who it was, anyone who disrupted the order of the game was an enemy. This wave of purge lasted for 3 days. As long as the guild members of the Heavens Road Esports Club dared to leave the safe zone to train, they would be greeted with merciless killing and a 3-hour resurrection cooldown. It was impossible for him to level up. This completely stunned Eastflow, who had just entered the battlefield a few days ago. This environment made his blood boil. He could feel that this was a group of players who loved the game as much as he did. This kind of gaming environment was what he had always dreamed of. Everything in the game revealed the player's passion for the game. For example, there were game guides on the forum that were as large as a database. They were all compiled and published by the players because of their passion for the game. Another example was the fact that many lifestyle players would create items for other players for free. This was also because of their passion. There were many more examples like this. Although there was competition in the game, this kind of competition environment was benign and would only increase the fun of the game and the determination of the players to become stronger, unlike Heaven's Road, which was filled with shady deals, and ability was secondary. From Donlio's point of view, Battle Royale was more like a new world. Everyone had their own lives, their own pleasures, and even more so, their unforgettable fetters. Becoming close friends with NPCs, staying up all night with guild friends to clear dungeons, explore, study new skills, or gain proficiency in life professions, and so on. Before coming into contact with this game, Donglu would never have believed that there could be such a realistic and colorful world in the game. The players seemed to have integrated into this world, and even felt that they were part of the Mansion of the Dead, the natives. While all of this was shocking to Donglu, it also made him want to be part of it. Of course, after coming into contact with the game, he suffered a huge blow in some aspects. For example, the gap in combat skills. He had always thought that he was good at the game, but he was so abused in this game that he almost became autistic. Although he knew that this game was different from the traditional mouse and keyboard controls, Donglu didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Instead, he thought that since he was so good at fighting, he would be able to rise quickly. However, it turned out that Yi-chun was right. In terms of fighting, Battle Royale players were extraordinarily strong, and their combat skills were even better than his. His attributes couldn't keep up, and his skills were much worse. After failing several times in the individual arena, he was really close to becoming autistic. Unwilling to admit defeat, Donglu went to the Battle Royale forum and searched for the combat skills tutorial post to see the combat skills of other players. However, after reading a series of combat technique guides such as Fist Technique Outline, Assassin's 6 Stealthy Moves, Mage's Melee Staff Techniques, Battlefield Offensive Techniques, Analysis of Spell Release Angles, and so on, Donglu was completely convinced. The hardcore of the Battle Royale players made Donglu tremble in fear. This was because these Battle Royale players learned to fight for the sake of killing their enemies quickly. Compared to them, Donglio's boorish fighting style was completely out of line. At this moment, he believed what Yi-chun said, and he also understood why Yi-chun pointed out that he was a Battle Royale player. However, none of this defeated Donglu. At this moment, the 31-year-old Donglio's fighting spirit was reignited, and he decided to strive for the peak of Battle Royale. He also believed that such a day would come. A starting point full of hope was far more joyful than a mountain peak covered by dark clouds. It was also more full of vitality and hope. At least that was what Donglu thought. The farce of the players over the past few days also made Lu Wu realize something. The cake of Battle Royale was too big. It had already attracted the attention of many capitalists. Lu Wu conducted a thorough investigation on the few clubs that were suppressed by the players. During the investigation, he found out that there was a huge profit chain behind the game Heavenly Road. The way they made money was not as simple as relying on sponsors. Basically, they were all related to BBC.com, manipulating the competition in secret to reap huge profits. This situation piqued Lu Wu's curiosity, so he conducted a thorough investigation on Battle Royale. He dug out the detailed information of many major guilds, wanting to see if there were similar examples in other servers. However, after some sorting, the results of the investigation left Lu Wu dumbfounded. This was because there were organizations with the same idea in every server. Their original intention in entering Battle Royale was to make money. This included the newly opened non-server guilds. But what was unbelievable was that they actually played it. These guilds and organizations that did not have a pure purpose in the beginning had all, without exception, given up their original intentions and started to play the game seriously. The money that they invested into the game was originally intended to reap greater benefits, but now it was all turned into equipment or items on their bodies. There were even some guilds that had agreed to enter Battle Royale together and join forces to stir up trouble in the game, such as controlling the price of the auction house in the game to reap huge profits. However, some guilds had even developed into rivals. Not only did they fail to do so, but they were also throwing money into it, hoping to bring down the opposing guild. It could be said that they had completely immersed themselves in the identity of the players. At this moment, Lu Wu did not know whether to laugh or cry. He He had also given up on his original idea of punishing them. At the same time, in Bakey, the few clubs that were previously suppressed began to post on the forum, apologizing. They solemnly promised that they were here to play the game seriously and would never go against their original intentions as players of Battle Royale. After 3 days of playing the game, they had also become loyal fans of Battle Royale. Faced with the criticism and suppression from the players, they felt mentally and physically exhausted. However, it was impossible for them to do anything without apologizing. This was because this game did not allow them to delete their accounts and start over. Although it was an online game, they had to be responsible for their actions. If they did not apologize, then their future gaming career would be extremely miserable. Therefore, they lowered their heads and wrote a 10,000-word letter of guarantee on the forum, hoping that the players of Battle Royale would forgive them and that they were really only here to play the game. With regards to this, the players finally chose to forgive them after seeing their sincere attitude. The waves of shock subsided, but for the players, they were unusually satisfied. Although it was a simple matter, the players felt as if they were warriors who had successfully defeated the devil and protected their homeland. A sense of pride welled up in them. Lu Wu was also very pleased with the players' performance. As it turned out, the players' feelings for Battle Royale were extremely pure. Of course, the players' feelings for the game were indeed pure, but they were filled with malice toward Lu Wu, the official. At this moment, the players began to clamor again in the Battle Royale official forum. Stupid official, tomorrow is the Hungry Ghost Festival. Are you ready to bleed? Laughing emoji. Where is the stupid official? Where's the announcement of the Hungry Ghost Festival? Hurry up, slams table emoji. When the Hungry Ghost Festival begins, the stupid official should give everyone 10,000 soul coins. Who agrees and who disagrees? Tongwa's arrogant face.